and gentlemen, welcome to episode 36 of Two Dudes and Some Feces.
Live from a porta potty in Toronto and Atlanta.
That's right. Tony and I are actually in two porta potties right now in Toronto and Atlanta. I sit here all day on the can. It's amazing. So yeah, this is episode 36 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. And Tony and I today are going to be talking about our top 10 favorite horror VHS movies that we own.
It's not, this isn't like the all time. This is like what we own in our collection.
Right, exactly. And so we are going to be talking about that. But first, there's a couple of news stories that Tony and I wanted to tackle before we get going. So let's dive into it, Tony. Which sort of hot topic news story did you want to talk about here?
Well, first, since you are technically, are we still live? Just making sure.
We are, as far as I know.
I just saw the little refresher thing come up. Since you are the technically the voice man, I got this classic 80s Macho Man t-shirt. So you got to give me a Macho Man impersonation before we get going. Can you tap in and give me the mach? I know you might need a line of cocaine to do it because like he did his promos.
Oh yeah, I'm about to walk into the store. It's gonna be fucking up. The cream rises to the top. Yeah. There you go.
He was my favorite, man. You know, unfortunately, Prima Donna Hogan, man, totally stole the spotlight from him so much in the 80s. But he was my favorite wrestler in the 80s.
He was fun. The way he was so, like, he was just so, it was like he was about to bust a vein at any given, and it was always extreme highs and extreme lows. So it was always like, I'm about to rip your bloody head off, Hogan.
You know he had to do a line before he did his promos.
All the time. And then right in the same breath, he'd be like, I'm about to kick your ass like you've never seen it before. Like he was so like intense.
Great. He was very charismatic on the promos. Of that genre, that time frame, I thought he was the best on the mic. He just really knew how to control that mic, even with that, you know, with his veins popping out of
Remember him in Spider-Man? Bonesaw is ready!
Yeah.
He just was so like fuck, holy shit. Rest in peace, Randy Savage.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you say Spider-Man because Stan Lee lied to me. I got bit by a spider and my ankle's the size of a golf ball, and now it's the size of a softball.
Oh my God.
I can't spit web. I thought I would be getting superhuman powers after getting bitten, but nope. Thankfully,
the realities of living in the South.
That is the realities. Thankfully, it's not poisonous or whatever. It's just more of a nuisance. It feels like basically like if you were to take a bee sting and just like amplify it by like 100 times, that's what it feels like to have a spider bite you. And just, I shared it on Instagram with everyone. Everyone was like, Jesus, dude. And it literally has just progressively gotten bigger. But they said at the hospital and shit that it's fine. It's, you know, it's not infection. It's just going to have to run its course and shit. But yeah, you ever been bit by a spider?
I have not been bit by a spider. Not that I'm aware of anyway.
Yeah, it's fun times. But I can tell you what Stan Lee said in the comic books is definitely not true. You do not get nothing. No web. Nothing.
That's unfortunate. We got
some news stories, dude. A lot of shit happened.
Yeah, before we jump into our horror VHS, top favorite horror VHS in our collection. So let's, first news story, breaking today, Anthony Michael Hall of Breakfast Club fame, National Lampoon's Vacation, Rusty. Russ! Yeah, I'm right here, Dad. Oh, there you are. I love him. And of course, Weird Science, a staple of the 1980s teen movies.
Weird Science. RDJ.
That's right. He has been cast to play Tommy Doyle, and this is coming from Variety. So this is one of the big trades that is a extremely trusted source, and this is not a rumor. This is being presented as fact. Blumhouse and Universal have made it official. Anthony Michael Hall is your new Tommy Doyle. And people have been asking me what my thoughts are on this, and I probably will do a video on it, although I may not get to it till tomorrow. But let me, and there's no doubt that somebody who tunes in late to the show, when we get to the Q&A, will probably ask it as well. But let me just say that, based on looks alone, just looking at Anthony Michael Hall today, he certainly looks like he could be a 50-year-old Brian Andrews. 100%. I totally buy on looks alone that is the same boy at 50 years old. 100%. No issues there.
You could even see similar features when you look at Anthony Michael Hall in Vacation of how young he is. He's like 13, 14 in there, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the kid Brian who played Tommy Doyle in the 78 film, they look like they could be siblings or related. They have very similar features. I'm not saying they're twins, but they look like they could be family.
I agree. Yep. No, 100%. It's the blonde, pale, freckles sort of thing, right? So, yep, I agree. So now Anthony Michael Hall, he's always been that character actor that pops up every now and then. It's difficult to say whether or not he's going to do a good job or this is the right casting, because we have absolutely no idea what role Tommy Doyle is going to have in this movie. We don't know if it's a big role. We don't know if it's a small role. Is it a role like I had in my concept where he was quite involved in the journey and the adventure? Or is it a scene maybe that's 5 minutes long where they go over to Tommy Doyle's house and, they need to get advice and then he becomes part of the adventure for a very short period of time and then he ends up getting killed by Michael. I mean, who knows? I mean, we have no idea how involved he's going to be. So it's difficult to say whether or not he was the right choice in terms of the acting and the performance, but certainly based on looks, he looks like Brian Andrews, or that like he could be that kid today. Tony, how do you see it?
Same thing. We don't know what the arc of Tommy Doyle character is going to be, what the significance of, his character in these next two films or one film. We have no idea. On paper, Anthony Michael Hall, great choice. Like you said, if I'm picturing Tommy Doyle at 50 years old, Anthony Michael Hall, yep, I buy into that. That's what I'm buying into. The rest is just, it's that speculation, that guessing game. What does this all mean? It's the stuff that, like we've talked about, that I try to back off from because I don't want to speculate, because the more you guess and speculate, then you're going into the theater pretty much already letting yourself down if it doesn't happen the way you guess and speculate. So on paper, I like it. I think it's a great choice. I think he's going to do well bouncing off of Jamie Lee. Have they ever done anything together that we know of?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Anything,
sure.
In the 80s possibly, because they
I'm not sure.
Going on their ride together in the 80s. I just didn't know if maybe they ever did anything together at one point.
I'm not sure. It's possible.
But yeah, I mean, as far as just, on paper right now and what we know of, I'm totally on board with him as Tommy Doyle.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, I'll probably do a video on this maybe tomorrow, maybe later tonight. I'm not sure. But definitely, yeah, I'm pleased because he looks like Tommy Doyle. Right. I mean, Paul
and he
Rudd
can at least act in a horror movie. We're not asking, like we said before the stream, not asking, give me an Academy Award winning performance. Just whatever they write for you, give us a good solid performance and make Tommy Doyle your own. Maybe he's still, I almost picture, because it's 2019, they might even go the route of what it's like to be bullied. You know what I mean? And he's still, recovering from that and being bullied as a kid, and they may tap into that side of Tommy's arc a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah. It's no, you're right. It's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's based on looks. Yeah, he looks like Tommy. He looks a hell of a lot more like Tommy Doyle than Paul Rudd did. I can't believe people wanted Paul. I can, but I can't. Like, there were so many people wanting Paul Rudd back. What the fuck are you talking about? He looks nothing like Tommy Doyle. He never did. I saw Halloween 6 in the theater back in 1995, as many of us did. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but I remember seeing it. And I remember seeing Paul Rudd, who was an unknown at that time. And I remember thinking, this guy looks nothing like Tommy Doyle. There's no way that handsome man, I'm not saying that.
Careful, Dave.
Handsome, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like, there's no way this guy's Tommy Doyle. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no way, and then people wanted him back. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the wrong timeline. Like, it's not even like, what the hell? What? I thought it would have been fun to get Brian Andrews back, which is why I had him in my concept sequel idea as Brian Andrews. But I was also very aware that Brian Andrews has not acted in a long time, and he's never been really an actor per se. It's not like he broke out and done many things. I mean, Anthony Michael Hall's done way more than Brian Andrews has, and Brian Andrews may be a little green and he's a little frumpy looking. No offense to Brian Andrews, but I just mean, I think he looks a lot better now. But when he was at the 40th anniversary convention, what I mean by that is that he looked a bit haggard. I mean, he had long hair, a long beard. He just looked like he had crawling out from the gutter. I mean, no offense, but I mean, he looked a little rough. So, but nothing.
Big Lebowski?
Well, yeah, exactly. But nothing that, a shave and a couple nights sleep might not help, So, and I think, well, since you're bringing back Curtis and you're bringing back Nick Castle and why not entertain the idea of Brian Andrews? And although I don't think, according to Brian Andrews' Facebook page, I don't think Blumhouse ever reached out to him, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't on the table. That doesn't mean that there were not conversations at some point where it's like, hey, do you think we should go after him? And somebody was like, well, maybe we should. And then somebody was like, I don't know, man. It doesn't mean that there weren't discussions behind closed doors that even Andrews isn't aware of. There very well may have been, but ultimately they may have thought, you know what? He's not an actor. He's not acting. We need somebody. Let's go after somebody who looks like it could be him and who's, an all right actor and who we can get for cheap.
Well, I don't want to speak for you, and I definitely don't want to speak for anybody in the chat room, but I would say, if I were to guess, when you look at the entire Halloween franchise as a whole and the children's department of the kid actors who have played in all these films, the one that stands out above that you probably would never want to recast would be Jamie Lloyd's Danielle Harris character. If you were going to bring that character back, you want Jamie Lloyd. When it comes to Tommy Doyle, I'm not minimizing Tommy Doyle's importance to the original film, but what I'm saying is you can get away with recasting him and bringing in someone like Anthony Michael Hall. Well, if they were to say that they're going to bring Jamie Lloyd back into these next two films, and you don't bring Danielle Harris back, you're going to piss a lot of fucking people off.
Well, absolutely. And it makes no sense. And Danielle Harris, with all due respect, I mean, look, this is the reality of the business, okay? Danielle Harris still looks good. If Danielle Harris was 280 pounds, they wouldn't cast her. I guarantee it, unless it was woven into the narrative that she was, heavy, and that's just a reality of the business. Right. But fortunately for her, she still looks quite good, and she's would come back like that. We know that. So if you were to do a movie where it requires her character, look, I'm the first person that has said, the fuck, you don't bring her back. What are you doing? But if you were doing a movie that was in that timeline, I would be the first to the table saying, you cast Danielle Harris. What the fuck are you doing casting Margaret whoever? Like, no, you cast her because she's available. She still looks good and she's capable. She has acting experience, much more than Brian Andrews does. And she would do it like that. And she would do it, no offense to her, cheaply. I don't mean cheap. I just mean in comparison, right? It's not going to cost, $10 million to get Danielle Harris. So when you look at Anthony Michael Hall, it's the same thing. Paul Rudd, oh my God, you're going to pay an arm and a leg. You're going to pay like $5 million to get him in there.
He's making off of Ant-Man now? Come on.
Forget it. And he doesn't look like, Tommy. It's unnecessary. Brian Andrews, you could have probably gotten a lot cheaper than you could Anthony Michael Hall, but they probably split the difference and thought, you know what, let's go after Anthony Michael Hall because he looks like a 50-year-old Tommy Doyle and he's got more acting experience. And it's a movie that he probably, as you said, do fine in. Nobody's expecting a riveting, performance from Tommy Doyle. Just do what you do it and do it well, and don't botch it.
Phone it in,
Yeah, exactly. So,
and I know some people in the chat are mentioning Lindsay. The reason why I didn't say Lindsay's name, her connection is really more to Annie. Yes, towards the end of the film, her and Tommy are together, and blah blah blah. But Tommy and Laurie is really the connection. Same thing with Jamie Lloyd and Laurie. That's the connection. I'm not minimizing Kylie. I'm not minimizing Lindsay Wallace's character. Wallace, right? That's her last name in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I'm not minimizing, but when I'm saying when it comes to that connection, the connection is really with Tommy and Laurie, or Laurie and Jamie.
Right.
I'm not saying Lindsay's not connected at all, but if you're choosing to bring in characters and you're going to bring in Tommy Doyle, it makes a lot of sense because there is a bond there. They went through something traumatic together, which I'm sure they're going to tap into, as well too, in that whole post-traumatic stress. Because it's going to be interesting to see if that's the road they go down, between the bullying that he went through and what was it like for him as a kid to experience all this, because that's
right.
So they sort of skimmed the surface of that in Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, but you didn't really see it as far as performance-wise out of Paul Rudd, which is, I'm not, knocking him. He was given a script that he was told what to do, but you didn't see that, how much it really totally affected him, because he, from the get-go, he seemed like he's a man on a mission. He's trying to get Michael. And
here are some facts again, right? Paul Rudd, with all the, if you want to have an actor portraying a character who is living the life of PTSD and trauma, not to say that Tommy Doyle is, who knows, maybe he's the happiest guy in the fucking world in this new movie. I have no idea.
Right.
But if he has a bit of a tortured past, and if it has sort of remained with him as well as what happened with Laurie, Anthony Michael Hall looks like a weathered dude. He looks like a guy who has been through a lot. Yeah. Paul Rudd's too handsome, right? Anthony Michael Hall looks the part naturally. And it's not a knock personally. These are just facts, right? People are cast based on looks all the time. People are not cast based on looks all the time. Now, there again, that's some nuance needs to be instilled here. Obviously, it's not black and white, but certainly those things do happen. So when I look at Anthony Michael Hall, and if I have a character that's Tom, I'm like, damn, he looks like Tommy Doyle, and my character is suffering from PTSD and blah. Anthony just naturally looks like a guy who's been through a lot of shit. Let's get him in there, right? So who knows? But we still don't know what his role is going to be in the movie. It could be minor. It could be major. It could be minor. It could be somewhere in between. So I think based on looks, it's a good casting choice. And, we'll see to know more about sort of how what his role is, whether or not Anthony Michael Hall can carry a movie is a whole other discussion. Totally. So that's different. Supporting is one thing.
It's easier. Yeah. You don't have to carry it on your shoulders.
Right, exactly. And Jamie Lee Curtis obviously is much more
she's going to be 6 of these under her belt by the time she's done.
Yeah, she has a lot more experience in that area. So, all right. So let's move on to the next news story, which was
you want to talk about what Carpenter said at the convention?
Is that the Halloween's not going to die thing or whatever?
Yeah, where it's like that's not the end of the franchise, which he's basically saying the inevitable, more or less. If there's money to be made, they're going to continue to make these even after Halloween ends, which I think we all know. I mean, it's crazy, man. I was just thinking about this the other day, looking at my Instagram and looking at the amount of support I get on the Michael photos and how popular it is. Dude, we say this all the time. When you and I were kids, didn't you not feel like you were the lone wolf out there who was the only Halloween fan and no one gave 2 shits about Michael?
Well, because for the most part, you're right. Nobody did give 2 shits about Michael. It's only because of, look, I look at my demographics on my analytics, and the vast majority of people that watch me are between the ages of 25 and 34.
Yeah.
And then it goes 34 to 45. Well, the vast majority of people who are 25, 26, 27, I'm not saying that you're all, like this, but because of your age, most of you probably, your introduction to Halloween was probably Halloween H2O. And that tends to be a lot of,
it's true.
That tends to be a lot of people's introduction. So there's a lot of nostalgia there. There's a lot, and then you go back and watch the others. And in the late 90s, Elm Street and Friday were non-existent, and Halloween ruled the late 90s and early 2000s for better or for worse. And then you had the 2 Rob Zombie films, for better or for worse.
They were there.
They were there, and Michael Myers and Halloween was in the pop culture consciousness. Freddy and Jason were non-existent. it was the complete role reversal from what it was in the 80s, essentially, for the vast majority of that decade. So you're right. I mean, it was like that. And now it's Michael.
Yeah, and for him to make that comment at the convention this week, and it's like you're stating the obvious. You know, I knew that, yeah, okay, even though Blumhouse can say Halloween Ends all they want, and they may market it as the last, we all know it's not. And if there's money, like he said, if there is money to be made there, they're going to, COD is going to still continue to make films. Now, the question is, like you and I were talking about before we went live, is what could they do? You know, I love your option. If we can do that second, and I'll just go over mine really quick because I really love yours.
Sure.
So mine was more or less if the approach of what do you do to continue after Halloween ends? Waters go quiet, you let some time go by. My idea would be to reboot it, but reboot it in the sense of you look at the whole franchise. And okay, let's pick out all the favorite characters that we all love. And we now tie them all together into one cinematic universe of the Halloween franchise. No more choose your adventures. No more this. Everybody's connected. You know, all the beloved characters, yes, they're going to be played by other people. And, you know, same thing, Laurie Strode will be played by someone else. It's not the Jamie Lee Curtis. This is all fresh faces, new ideas. That would be my approach, you know, because there's so much you can do if you actually do integrate all the characters together. Because you're telling a story for the first time. Like, look, there's no interaction with Rachel Carruthers as a child being babysit by Laurie Strode, even though it's referenced in Halloween 4. We can show that to the fans. You can have, you know, Laurie Strode babysitting Rachel Carruthers, and the fans are gonna be like, oh fuck, you know, and that could be just one movie that segues into when Rachel gets older, and you have another movie. So that would be my approach, would be taking all the beloved characters and putting them into one nice universe of the Halloween franchise, and you don't have to go the choose your own route. Having said that, I got to give it over to my man Dave because his idea is better than mine.
Well, I find your idea really interesting and quite ballsy, quite sort of risky, but really interesting. Like, you know, I like sort of the concept.
Very risky. It's extreme.
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of Halloween fans, but when you're trying to think of new ideas and how do I approach it from from fresh eyes, it would be just like I said, take the beloved characters and let's start a whole new universe right from scratch. But yours is going to trump mine.
Well, it's good. Yes, it's great. Trump fake news. This is okay. Well, this was asked on my Patreon live stream the other day that I do for my patrons. And somebody, I forget who it was now, maybe they're watching, but somebody asked me about whether or not I think they should make a sequel to Halloween Resurrection. And that sort of prompted me going on this, you know, diatribe of you know, talking about how much I loathe that movie. But at the same time, look, there is no doubt that this is show business, okay? It's always about money. That doesn't mean that directors and writers and filmmakers at large do not try to put their best foot forward and make a product that you will like, because obviously the more a product is liked, the more it will sell. But this is show business, and if Halloween continues to make money, they will inevitably continue to make them. Yep. To a point. But I do believe that this is the end of the current Halloween universe as we know it, in terms of the Laurie Strode story that is connected to the original 1978 film. And then it asks, okay, well, let's say it is the end of Halloween as we know it to be. What then? Well, they'll just reboot it 5 years from now. And it's like, and I've often said that as well. Oh, they'll reboot it 5 or 10 years from now. But the more I think about it, it's completely unnecessary. I don't want to see... There's no need to reboot this Halloween 5 or 10 years from now. Stop. Wait a generation. Wait 30 years. Sure. Then reboot it. Because then not only is the way we consume entertainment changed, but technology has changed. And maybe virtual reality will be a real staple and a common thing, and you can become part of the movie. I'm just purely, you know, but who knows, right? Then you think about maybe rebooting that story. But if you can't tell it any differently, and it's just going to look like the same movie over and over again, there's no point in rebooting that. So I wait a while before you reboot that story again, but with different characters. So then I thought, you know, if they want to continue this choose your own adventure thing, which now I love how everybody's talking about how, oh, you know, Halloween's just a choose your own adventure. No, it's not. No,
they fucked up in the 80s.
They fucked up and they fell. And now everybody's just like, isn't this so wonderful? You can do this or you can do this or you can do that. Now fuck off with that. They fucked up is what happened, and they've had to retcon and recycle and, you know, go over here and do this, and now they're sort of there. When I say they, I'm talking about more the fans. It's not really coming down from the studio, but there's this idea now that's, oh, you know, isn't this wonderful? You could watch this and you could watch this. Yeah, fucking incompetence is what that is. But anyway, if they do decide to continue this choose your own adventure sort of thing that it's accidentally become.
And this is after Halloween ends and no more Strode, right?
Correct. No more Strode. In terms of you know, Jamie.
That line, yeah.
In terms of Laurie and you know what they were doing there. I don't want to see a sequel to Resurrection. I couldn't care less because I think Resurrection's dog shit, and I don't want to see a movie I don't want to see another Halloween movie to Resurrection. I think the really only way to continue a choose your own adventure would be to negate Halloween 5 and Halloween 6 and do a direct follow-up to Halloween 4. Pretend 5 and 6 never happened and do a direct sequel to Halloween 4. And now you can bring back Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd, because you don't go cast somebody else, because Danielle still looks good, right? And I'm not trying to, I'm just saying, you know, she's not 480 pounds where you're like, oh, this is going to be a problem. We may have to cast somebody else.
No, she looks great.
Exactly. So she still looks fine. She's healthy. She would be more than willing to do it in this day and age. There's no doubt about it. You could get her for relatively cheap. When I say relatively cheap, I mean in comparison to somebody like a Curtis or a Paul Rudd. So that goes in your favor.
And there's a lot you can tell with her storyline.
A lot, because then the last thing we saw of her was her standing at the top of the stairs with, you know, the knife in her hand, and Loomis, no. And you pick up from that moment, you know, 30 years later, who is she? Where is she? Is she locked up? Is she married? Does she have kids? Is Michael still out there? There's so much.
Her attacking her stepmom, all that.
Right.
Shit, you know.
Right. That is, if you're going to continue the choose your own adventure thing, that I think is your best and only in point, because you don't do a sequel to, like, you don't pretend 6 didn't happen and do a sequel to 5. That makes no fucking sense.
No.
You don't want to do a sequel to 6 and pretend H2O didn't happen. You don't do a sequel to H2O and pretend Resurrection didn't happen, because then you're still faced with the dichotomy of how did Michael survive the head chop? So now you got to make up another bullshit thing. Really?
Halloween 4.
Halloween 4 is your endpoint.
You're and if done right, you're telling a nice story from 1, 2, 4, and whatever they do afterwards. Because 1, 2, and 4, when you watch those 3 films together, it's a good trilogy. I mean, you know, with an open ending to whatever it can do.
Yeah.
The storytelling is good. There's nothing offbeat, nothing wacky, nothing crazy, nothing you know, like so far out of left field. You're like, what the fuck? Like what they did with 5 and shit that they did in 6.
Right.
So no, dude, that, like, when you said that before we went live, I was like, yeah, like that would be, you know, if the studio felt confident enough, like, hey, we did our thing with Jamie Lee. We now ran it to the end. We want to continue it and tell you guys some new Halloween stories. Now we're going to pick up from the Jamie Lloyd character, but we're going to, hey, look, they retconned Laurie Strode's storyline and people got on board with it. So fuck it. Why not? Retcon Jamie Lloyd's storyline and give her a clean slate from Halloween 4.
Yeah, their biggest obstacle would be getting the average movie-going fan to understand what exactly is going on. Halloween fans already know, and when you live in a bubble, when you live in a fandom bubble, you often forget that not everybody gives a fuck about what you give a fuck about on the same levels that you give a fuck about it. They just don't, you know, so... and it's just the truth, right? I mean, listen, there's lots of times I talk to people that are like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. You don't really give a shit about what I care about. Anyway, so that would be the biggest thing, because the average movie-going fan would be like, what? And then, you know, somebody is likely to say, yeah, well, the movie's not for them. Yeah, no, but to make money, it's got to appeal to a lot more people than just hardcore Halloween fans, right? So that would be their biggest obstacle is there's another Halloween movie. I thought they already wrapped this up and it's got Jamie what? We're going to know. That's not going to be hard. But the millions and millions and millions and millions of other dollars that are at stake that they could potentially lose because of that is something that they have to, okay, how are we going to market this? Like, what is this? Because there's going to be people going, what the fuck is going on, right? And that could be potentially millions and millions of dollars. So that would be their biggest obstacle. But in principle, as a thought, that I think is your most logical choice if you want to continue to play the choose your own adventure game.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on because we've been talking half an hour here. Let's move on quickly to the Robert Englund story.
The reboot of news stories. They're gotten so desperate. We're rebooting news stories that I thought we discussed this like a year or so ago, but I don't know how this caught viral. But what is it? Because of what he said at the convention about Kevin Bacon taking over the gloves and playing
it's
Freddy?
so weird. It's so weird to me because you even Instagram me, like, you sent me a message. You're like, dude, didn't we talk about this at some point?
We did.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. So the very, in a nutshell now, it essentially Robert Englund, I believe it was Monster Mania. Was that the convention he was at?
Monster Mania.
Something like that. And he happened to talk about how he thinks Kevin Bacon would make a great Freddy Krueger and how he thinks he still has one more, left in him and blah, blah, blah. Something he's been saying, the one more left in him, he's been saying for the better part of a year. The Kevin Bacon thing, he's been saying the better part of 2 or 3 years. So this is not new information. And I am, I don't mind I don't mind that people still want to talk about it. It's hilarious that all these big reputable sites ran with it like it was actually new information. Even Ryan Turek, one of the producers at Blumhouse, tweeted out something to the effect of, woke up this morning and saw all these news articles about Robert Englund talking about Kevin Bacon and I got deja vu. Didn't he mention this like a year or so ago?
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, Ryan Turek said that. And I've been saying that. I'm like, why is everybody, like, I don't mind talking about it, but why is it being presented like it's some new revelation? Like, holy shit, did you hear? I'm thinking that would be like me saying, did you guys fucking hear that they're doing Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends? Like, yeah, they announced that right? 4 months ago. Like, what do you do? Like, I just found it kind of funny. So it's not new information. And also as well, Kevin Bacon, although it's not, there are worse people. Kevin Bacon's over the age of 60. So,
is he 61?
He's 61. Now, he looks good, but Robert Englund was about 37 when he did the original Elm Street. Yeah. I think they need to go with a guy who is about that age, like, about our age, the late 30s, early 40s, something like that. Kevin Bacon is, because they always, especially with something as profitable as Elm Street, you would want to set it up for the potential of a series. And, I don't know. Is Kevin Bacon wanting to do that? Who knows? But anyway, so it's not new news. It's like, and, as you said, wow, so we're not just in the business of rebooting movies. Now we're rebooting news
stories.
Like, and
everybody was reporting it. Like
everybody.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. I shared a link on my Facebook page to an article from ScreenRant.com from 2017.
2 years ago.
Yeah. And that whole article was about Robert talking about how he thinks Bacon would make a great Freddy. And Screen Rant was also one of the ones posting about it again as if they had never talked about it. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, just weird shit. So it's not new information, but
the idea of Kevin Bacon, look, if Kevin Bacon was still like 45, I'll even say 45 to 50 in that range.
Sure.
You could easily get 4 to 5 movies from him. Now, whether or not would he want to do that, I don't know. But minimally, you would get 3.
Right.
Kevin Bacon, 3 films now. He's going to be closing out into his 70s. And I'm not saying he can't do it, but there is some physicality to playing Freddy and doing the dream sequences.
Sure.
And I'm not saying they can't get a stunt actor. I get it. They can totally do that. And yes, I get that before you start saying, well, they can do stunt people. But I think when you're taking on a project like Nightmare on Elm Street, you're signing up for obviously sequels. You know that you're going to be taking on this role for at least a few years. I know Kevin, I think he said he would do it, but now is he saying that he would do it? Is this Kevin of a few years ago? Would he still do it now at 61?
I have no idea.
I don't know if he would.
Jason Willie in the chat here says Screen Rant are never reliable. Yeah, but everybody was talking about it. Bloody Disgusting was talking about it. Movie Web was talking about it. iHorror was talking about it. Comicbook.com was talking about it. Everybody was talking about it like it's new.
All
it's not new.
Sources that I follow on Instagram were all reporting this over the weekend. And I messaged Dave immediately. I said, dude, am I in a fucking deja vu moment here? Because like, I really felt that way.
Did we go back in time or something?
I know. Like, are we back a few years? Like,
were we just erased from existence? Yeah. Well, like, and then when a Blumhouse
notes on us.
Yeah, and when Ryan Turek says, "Didn't we just talk about?" Now it's really bad when the producers of major they're like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't get it." It's not that they can't talk about it again, but it's just nobody was actually. I guess everybody forgot. I guess all these sites. Well, no, I think what happened. Well, yeah, I guess so, because I'm surprised not one site went, "Hey, didn't we already talk about this?" Nobody did. I mean, I understand why they don't. Clickbait, click, money.
I guess it's just obviously you want to create interest in the character again. I mean, look, Robert is Robert. He will always forever be Freddy. But I got to tell you, I've never been one. I know he said he could do one more, but I'm not one that I need to see a 74-year-old Freddy Krueger.
No, I don't. Look, I saw
see that.
No, and I saw him on the Goldbergs, and it was a treat, and it was nostalgic, but I don't need to see him do it. But something to keep in mind, too, the reason why I pointed it out so, not fiercely, but I was trying to make sure people knew that it wasn't new news, is because it's important that you don't read too much into it, because when you start to see recycled news, it sometimes can give the illusion that it's foreshadowing something that it really isn't. Right. So people are bound to get excited. Oh my God, they're talking about it again. And it's like, no, but listen, Robert Englund's like me, okay? If there's one thing that Englund is not short of, it's the ability to talk. You probably noticed, okay? Robert Englund is the same way. He can talk and talk, which is good in certain situations. Right. But he's always talking about this. So I just wanted people to know that it's cool what he said, but because he's talking about it again and people are covering it, doesn't mean that there's some credence to it. Doesn't mean that, oh my God, they're really close to casting Kevin Bacon as Freddy. No. It's just Robert talking off the cuff again. He who knows? Maybe he even forgot that he talked about it before. He's 74. Who the fuck knows, right? So that's why I think it's important to draw the attention to that, because people are starting to get really excited over something that's old news. So, anyway, that's how I feel about it. But
you ready to go into our and favorite horror films that we own?
All right, now VHS? We appreciate your patience. Those of you that are still watching, just a couple of news stories that Tony and I wanted to talk about off the top. So this video, Tony and I are going to be showing you with some honorable mentions. Yeah, we're going to be showing you our top 10 favorite horror movies that we own on VHS. We're not saying that these are the best horror movies. We're saying that these are our top 10 that we own on VHS. We're doing no particular order, right? We're just showing 10.
That's right.
Right, Tony? Yeah.
This is no particular order. This is not like we're not going from greatest to least. Chances are, I'm sure Dave and I are going to probably have similar picks. We don't know. We didn't tell each other, so I have no idea what Dave's picks are, and he doesn't know what mine are. And like he said, we've got a couple of honorable mentions as well too. And so you want to start with the honorables? You want me to start?
You can start. You can start.
Okay, so
I'm gonna go one. So you'll go one, I'll go one, you'll go one, I'll go one, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab my 4 honorables just to knock them out of the park really quick here, and then we can go into our top 10. My 4 honorable mentions are Halloween 4, which everyone knows is my favorite Halloween of the franchise. Love that. Not much more I can say about that. Psycho. Yeah, Psycho. I'm giving Psycho an honorable mention, which goes to show you how hard this was for me to do a top 10.
Woo!
Christine, John Carpenter's Christine, which me and Dave did a video on that a couple weeks ago with Carrie, and the original Friday the 13th. That is my quick 4 honorable mentions. I'm telling you, when you start looking at your old collection of VHS tapes, and I got a lot, and a lot of them are horror films, this was fucking hard.
This
so
was fucking hard. Yes.
It was really hard to do. So I was like, well,
Yeah.
I gotta give, like, how can I not mention Psycho? How can I not mention Halloween 4? It's you know, I love that film. It was the first Halloween I ever saw.
Yeah.
Same thing with Friday the 13th. How can I not mention it? So I thought, well, we'll just knock those out really quick and do a quick honorable mention. So what are yours?
This is so hard. This is so hard because I just realized I think I left one over there. This is so hard. Okay, so here's an honorable mention. You ready? Okay, so this is not a traditional horror movie per se, but it is horror-esque. Like it's a, you know, it's a thriller horror kind of thing, but it's on my honorable mentions list, and it's still in pristine condition. This is hilarious. It is the original When a Stranger Calls from 1979.
Good.
The original When a Stranger Calls from 1979, folks. Yep, there it is right there. There we go. And then, of course, we're going all the way back to 1954, the original, but then the American version was 1956. Do you know what that is?
No idea.
Okay. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Huh? Hey, it's considered a horror movie per se. I mean, it was... It certainly was at the time, but this is the Godzilla King of the Monsters, which was the 1956 version of the original 1904 Japanese version. This is the version that's got good old Canadian actor there, Raymond Burr, as Steve Martin, as the reporter that experienced it all. So that's, yeah, that's, there we go. Okay. And then, let's see here. Where'd it go here? Okay, horror again, but in a different sort of subgenre of horror. The original 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later.
That was in the last, what, 20 years? That
2004.
So
oh, wait, was this supposed to be... Were these supposed to be from the 80s?
No, I'm just saying, like, so that's at the very end of the VHS run. You're kind of in that borderline.
Oh,
there.
right, exactly. Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean. So the 28 Days Later, this is also in great pristine condition. I was fortunate enough to see this in the movie theater, so that was good. And then my fourth honorable mention, where is it here? I'm gonna go with Session 9. Session 9.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it is the psychological horror thriller. It's really good. It's very good. It's an independent film. I don't think nobody well known, I don't think. But this is it's a slow burn, and it's not for everybody, but this is definitely one of my it's just creepy. It's just creepy. It says it looms up out of the woods like a dormant beast, grand, imposing, abandoned, and deteriorating. The Danvers State Mental Hospital closed down for 15 years. The Danvers State Mental Hospital, closed down for 15 years, is about to receive 5 new visitors. And it goes on from that. It's about these guys who go to sort of...
I'm going to get that and watch it.
I
haven't seen that.
Session 9. Donning protective gear, the men of the hazmat elimination company venture into the eerily vast and vacant asylum that is filled with an evil and mysterious past, rampant patient abuse, medieval medical procedures, and rumors of demonic possession, and some of the many dark secrets the hospital holds. But then...
So is it paranormal like? Or
Kind of. Yeah, it's an hour and 40 minutes. It's good. It's from 2002, and it's definitely an honorable mention for me. Cool. Session 9. Cool right there. All right.
This is it.
This is it. I'm gonna hang on. You keep talking. I gotta.
Me keep talking?
Oh wait. I gotta get this. I just gotta get this one here because I had so many. I just don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Okay. All right, Tony, go. All right.
Well, I think we're gonna just start with the most obvious, the original Halloween. Like I said, people ask like, well, I don't understand how Halloween 4 can be your favorite. I will always acknowledge that this is the far superior film from a photography point of view, from a film point of view. I mean, this damn thing is fucking near perfection. I mean, It really is. Everything that Carpenter Hill, fucking Gerwin, the producer, fucking Dean Cundy, fucking Tommy Lee Wallace, what everybody did in Halloween. I mean, I know Dave and I are planning to talk about Halloween again here in the near future, so I'm not going to say too much. But it's definitely easily in my top 10. And again, we're not doing greatest to worst or worst to greatest. This is I grabbed it. We definitely talk a lot of Halloween on here, so I figured, just get it right out of the way first. And yeah, I mean, I've had this bad boy since 94, I think is when I got this VHS.
Looks great.
Well, because you remember, like we've said that story many times, I couldn't get access to the original Halloween until about 1993 on VHS. They didn't have it at our local mom and pop video stores. It wasn't until Blockbuster came around and they carried it on VHS, and that's when I was able to see that. And that was about 92 when we got a Blockbuster in town. And I got this bad boy because you got the other one. You got the other cover, right? You got the OG Blockbuster cover.
Sorry, Chardy_Dark says, I love Session 9, David Caruso. Right, that's right. When you said who's in it, and I was like, I don't think anybody... David Caruso, I forgot. That's right. I was looking for the names there. Yeah, he's in it. That's right. Thank you, Chardy Dark.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
So that's a great segue of you talking about Blockbuster Halloween because... There we go. Now, again,
that picture of her on the front, that's what's on the back of this.
And you know what's crazy? There was never at any point at all in history of Michael standing like that against the backdrop of some shed or something.
Or a fence.
Or fence. Yeah, a fence of some kind. It's just a weird sort of fucking thing. But
what's her name? Kim, who did the still photographies. I wonder if they pulled a picture from her role and put it on there.
I don't know. I remember, for those of you that are old enough to remember, this was, to get the original Halloween on VHS was next to impossible. And, this was just, it was next to impossible. So when Blockbuster released this, this is from 1990... It says 4.
I was going to say 1994. That's when they started to sell them, because I got it about the same time. And it was between getting that version or spending the extra money and getting this one. I spent the extra money and got this one.
And check out this. It still hasn't been rewound. Oh!
Rewind, Dave.
All right. There you go. All right. What's next for you?
Oh, next for me, probably arguably my favorite scary movie of all time, The Exorcist. Dave and I did a video on The Exorcist a while back. I think this is the 80s. Because it's got the old MCA sticker on here and the old Warner Brothers logo, like the old computer font. If you guys could, I don't know if with the lighting or whatever, it's really hard, but this is like old school VHS, from the 80s. I know I got it sometime either late 80s or early 90s, but it will always be probably my favorite scary movie of all time.
Right.
It's one of my favorite books to read. I read the book at least once a year. Again, if you guys want to know more about our thoughts on The Exorcist, Dave and I did a 2-hour stream on it a little while back, but
we did
fucking love this movie.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's a great segue then. I might as well just do The Exorcist.
I wonder how many of our shit's going to be similar.
Well, this is cool because this is obviously VHS, and
that's the version you've never seen.
Version you've never seen. But check out this now in Canada. Yeah, in Canada we had Blockbusters as well. We had them all over the place, but we also had Rogers Video, and we also had a Canadian chain called Jumbo Video, and the mascot for Jumbo. Oh no, actually. Okay, I actually don't think it was a Canadian chain like national. It might have just been Ontario and maybe a bit out east. I'm not sure. I don't think it went across the country. But that aside, it was a Canadian chain. And the mascot for Jumbo Video was a big elephant. And I must have purchased this at Jumbo Video when they were selling off their VHSs because... Wait.
There it is. I see it. Viewing problems. Jumbo Video.
Yeah, Jumbo Video. And Yeah, it just says, if experiencing viewing problems, adjust the tracking or clean your VCR. If problems persist, please inform upon return. Jumbo Video, 315 Guelph Street, Georgetown, Ontario. Please be kind, rewind. So this obviously was one that they had on the shelf that they would rent. But I got it for cheap, maybe like $2 or $3. And I was like, I'm gonna fucking get this. I've watched it on here and it's fine. It's perfectly fine. So
yeah, I still watch it on this. See, yours is the updated version. This is from, like I said, this version's from the 80s. This is the pre,
right,
and the spider walk scene,
right,
and all that. So this is that still very, I like watching both versions. I like the director's cut never before seen. I have that digitally.
Yeah.
But I also like going back and throwing this on and just seeing that old film grain and that, old book before it was remastered and whatnot. But that's cool that you got the never before seen. I remember when they were advertising that shit.
Oh yeah, it's cool stuff. All right. So that's my number 10, 9. So you're down to 9. So we're down to 8 now. Our number 8. And again, folks, for those of you just tuning in, again, this is in no particular order. We're just giving our favorite 10.
Our favorite top 10.
Yeah, that we own.
This I just watched the other night. They're here. Poltergeist.
Oh, I wish I had Poltergeist on VHS. Yes. I don't.
Directed by Steven Spielberg. Directed by Tobe Hooper. Produced by Steven Spielberg.
That's great.
Joke if you know the
yes. Well, that's just it.
Production that unfortunately Hooper had to go through to get this done. But yeah, I was just watching this the other night. It was just one of those like kind of weird nights where I was like, man, I'm in the mood to watch Poltergeist. It'd been a while, and I just popped this bad boy on, and it still holds up. Love Craig T. Nelson in it. It's a shame that what happened to the little girl there. I forget her name.
O'Rourke.
Heather O'Rourke. Yeah,
Heather O'Rourke or something like that. Yeah.
But, because she really was the heart of, the franchise, as Caroline. She was great in the sequel. The third film, I mean, granted, with everything that happened towards the end of the production there where she passed away before completing of it, I'm not a fan of the third film. I do like the first two. The first two are solid. First one is great. Second one it's like Jaws 2. It's a decent sequel. It's not great, but I'll watch it if it's on. But yeah, I fucking love Poltergeist. I do. It's just a fun, ghost adventure movie from start to finish. And you can't go wrong. And fucking, what's her name there who plays Tangi? Is that her name? Or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
His house is cleansed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, cleared or something like that. Yeah. No, it's an absolute classic. And if you do know the history of Poltergeist, it's more of a
directed by Hooper, but really directed by Spielberg.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's a nice one. I like that. I wish I had Poltergeist on VHS. I do not. I would love to own it on VHS. Okay, so here's my number 8 in the list. Again, not in order, but just whatever. The original, the Amityville Horror. The Amityville
top 10.
Horror.
Okay, that one, I've got it down there. It didn't make my top 10. I do like it, but interesting. I did not see coming.
Didn't see it coming. I did
not see that coming.
There you go. And this is from 1989. It says 1989 right there. So I've had this for 30 years. So, and it's in pretty good shape. Still got the sheen to it. So yeah, that's definitely. I don't think it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time, but it's a classic in its own right. Absolutely. And it's creepy, and it's
Kidder looks amazing when she's doing her stretching there.
Margot Kidder, James Brolin,
all day.
Oh yeah, she's cute for sure. Yeah. And
is that pre-Superman or is that during the Superman run?
After Superman.
It's after Superman. Okay.
Yeah. Because this is, I believe, the Amityville Horror was 70. Why is it not saying that?
Was it 79?
I thought it was 79. Yeah. The chat room will let us know.
For sure.
I think it was 79. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't say on the back here. It should. Weird. Anyway, that's my number 8.
All right. Let me grab my next one here. Go with this bad boy. You hit me with the phone, dick. Scream, baby.
Oh!
I love this fucking movie. I do. It's one of my favorite scary movies. Everything that Wes Craven did, and even Kevin Williamson, who wrote the screenplay for it, This is going to be, for sure, it's a classic, and definitely, it's going to be interesting to hear what the 20-year-olds who eventually become 40-year-olds 20 years from now, what they say about this film, the way you and I and other people talk about Scream, just everything. Wes Craven is just a fucking genius, and always just innovating horror, and just a great cast from Nev. I love Nev. The more that I've gotten older, the more I've appreciated her in the Scream Queen category. She's definitely one of my favorites. Courtney Cox, of course. This is it was at the peak of Friends. This Friends just had come out, and Friends was really beginning to take off as a TV show. And, then of course you got, Matthew Lillard and, what's his name there that plays Billy? What's his name in real? Skeet something?
Oh yeah. I forget his name. His name.
I mean, talk about two great villains. Of the two, I got to say that I like Matthew Lillard better. I mean, he just cracks me up. You know what I mean? And I know that line that I said, you hit me with the phone, Dick. Right. I think he improvised that, and Wes Craven kept it in the movie. That was not in the script at all.
Right.
So yeah, is Scream on your list?
I do not own Scream on VHS, so it is not on my list.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So yeah. All right, what do you got next?
Next for me is a little classic from 2001, and it is. Wait a sec, I forgot to bring up the window here. There we go. The Others, starring Nicole Kidman. This is one of my favorites. It's not a horror movie in the sense that it's a slasher, but it is. I like this movie better than I do The Sixth Sense, and really? I think The Sixth Sense. This movie got a lot of flack because the endings are similar in the sense that they are twists, that they are the reversal of what you think is going on, in the sense that the spoiler alert in case you haven't seen The Others, but it's nearly fucking 20 years. Come on. In the sense that they are actually the people that are dead, and you don't think you don't believe that through the whole movie. I like the mood. I like the atmosphere. I like the setting. I like that there's not a lot of in your face horror in terms of it's so subtly done. It's all done through theater of the mind, and it's just classic Dave McRae shit that I would like, and I enjoyed the theater experience, and I just enjoyed the story. I thought what a great trick ending. I mean, just to realize that so they're the others really at the end of the day.
Sure.
At the end of the day, even though that the others are you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I didn't see it coming, and it's not just because I didn't see it coming. I just enjoyed the journey more. The Sixth Sense I thought was fine, but I will pop in The Others over The Sixth Sense any day. So it's on my list. My number 7, I guess, in no particular order. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to close out my Craven here and go with the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Some people may in the chat room go, what about Hills Have Eyes, and what about Last House? I have Last House on the left, and I love it. But I could have turned my list into a Wes Craven thing, and it's like, it's so hard to narrow it down. But when I look at as a whole, what movies do I watch more frequently? I do watch Scream, and I do watch Nightmare on Elm Street more than I would Last House on the Left. But I love Last House on the Left, and I have it on VHS. But yeah, this is the first horror movie I ever saw. I get goosebumps every time I talk about that story, and like just the impact. And I could be forever grateful to my babysitter, who I'm sure was just trying to get me out of the room so she can make out with her boyfriend, and having the opposite effect of, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. And I just sat my butt down quiet and just fell in love with horror movies. And this is not the original. This one is the remastered high definition, the one that came out in the 90s for us. 97. Yeah, that's right. This was the reprint of 97 when it came out. I had the original one from the 80s, but either it got lost in one of my moves, or I don't know what the hell happened to it. But I ended up replacing it with this back in 97, just before we graduated high school, and I fucking love this movie. I mean, I think all of us can really look back you know, to that first horror movie that we ever saw and why we ended up falling in love with the genre. And it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, really, it doesn't.
No, I agree with you. And that is why I'm going to piggyback off of that and present to you the original 1980s version.
Yep, that's it.
There you go. This is
the media sign. Yes, that's what I had. I don't know what the fuck happened to mine.
There it is.
That's the OG. That's OG shit. I mean, my shit's good, but Dave's got that's what you got in the 80s.
That's what you got in the 80s. And this yeah, you check that out right there. There it is, folks.
Yep. The old media sign on there.
And this is this I agree with you. I mean, this is check out that. Like, just look at that.
Oh my gosh. That font. Number 1. Does that say Nightmare on Elm Street #1?
Yes. Yes. Yes, look at that.
That's some 80s shit for you right there.
Nightmare on Elm Street #1. Oh, it's a good thing they told us that. Here's what's so great about this. This is like a lot of us who grew up as young boys in the 1980s, Elm Street was our first introduction to horror, because when we were old enough, you know, when like 5, 6, 7, that we were starting to get little boys getting into horror movies, Halloween was a thing of the past. I mean, you know, as we've often said, it's important to reiterate that after Halloween 2 from 1981, Michael Myers was non-existent and wasn't even a fucking bug or he was essentially a bug on an elephant's ass for 7 years. And Jason and Freddy ruled the 1980s. So many of the first horror movies, including myself, that I watched were Elm Street and Friday the 13th. I was a fan of Freddy and Jason before I was a fan of Michael.
And it's just by default because it's who we saw first.
That's right. And because they were in the pop culture consciousness, and a lot, I mean, you know, there were like five Friday movies or something before. No, hang on. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, like 5 Friday movies and 3 or 4 Elm Street movies when there were no Halloween movies. I mean,
and you can't minimize their popularity. Like when he's saying popular, guys, okay, like picture now, Michael, how popular he is. It doesn't even come close to how popular Freddy was. We're talking like almost Justin Bieber like shit. That's how popular Freddy was. Jason was probably just a tad under it, but like Freddy, whoever was old enough back then to appreciate all of that and everything that was going on in the pop culture. I mean, Freddy was fucking massive.
He was. He absolutely was. So I mean, yeah, that's definitely what is this, number 6, I guess, in no particular order.
We got the 5 left to go.
The original Nightmare on Elm Street. And I always remember as a young boy picking this box up at the video store, turning it over, and seeing this when Freddy is on the bed attacking. Glenn. Yeah, no, yeah, that's right, the mom. And I remember just getting, wow, it looks so like, whoa, you know. Anyway, there you go, number 6.
Oh, Wendy. Light of my life. I don't want to kill you. What's the line? Forgot the line.
The Shining. I wish I had this on VHS. I wanted to put it in there. I don't have it on VHS.
I've got almost all Kubrick on VHS. Yeah, it's we're planning to do a Kubrick night, guys. So I'm not going to go long into this because I don't want to say anything now that we're probably going to say here when we get to doing The Shining and Clockwork Orange. That's back behind me as well too. I didn't pick Clockwork because I don't think Clockwork would be considered a horror film. It's disturbing for sure, but I mean it's just a masterpiece of a film. I mean, great actors, you know, Jack and Shelley. I'm looking forward to Dr. Sleep, right? Yeah, Dr. Sleep sequel. I'm in the process of trying to read it. I don't think I'm going to make it because, you know, I don't know if some of you guys are like this, but when I start reading one book, I end up reading like 5 and can't complete it. So, yeah, that's that's where I'm at right now. I think I've read like the first 2 chapters of Dr. Sleep and have put it down and haven't picked it up since. But I'd like to read it before the sequel comes out. The thing with it, Dr. Sleep, is this. If you go into it thinking that it's going to live up to what Kubrick did in the Shining, even though I know with King didn't like what Kubrick did and all that stuff. All that stuff beside, you can't help when you watch the film, you know you're watching a Stanley Kubrick movie.
Right.
And it has that Stanley Kubrick touch. You're not going to get that with this film that's coming out here in a few months. And I hope people don't go into it thinking that's what they're seeing. I mean, I love Ewan McGregor as an actor. He's a great actor. I can't wait for the Obi-Wan series to come out here that they're going to be doing on Disney+. Spoiler if you didn't know that, but they announced that over the weekend. So, I mean, that's public knowledge now. But damn, it's just everything about this movie is just like, if you want to deliver the creep factor to the absolute fullest and to perfection, Shining does it.
Listen, The Shining is one of the greatest psychological horror movies in the history of cinema. Yeah. And it's because it took me many years to appreciate it in the ways that I do now, because I needed to be older and wiser as a person and more well-read and to understand the many different layers of symbolism that Kubrick is implying and implementing in that movie. Yeah. There are so many things going on around you that are integral to the story that when you understand them, and you're not necessarily supposed to understand them, they're supposed to seep into your subconscious, but when it's brought from your subconscious to your conscious mind and you realize, oh my God, look at that, look what he's doing there. Oh shit, I see. It makes you appreciate most Kubrick movies, because most of his movies are like that, but especially The Shining, it makes you appreciate it on a level that I don't know if I've ever appreciated a psychological horror film before. I wish I had it on VHS, because if I did, I would have already, sure, shown it. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I can't show it, but I'm gonna take it and put it in my honorable mentions.
Now, quick question before you go into your next one: do you still watch your VHS? Because I do.
I do. Yeah, I have a VCR. Yep.
Same thing. Once a week, I'll go in my living room, usually on Friday nights. I'll pick, go through my collection and, pick it out. There's something about, I don't know if you did this as a kid, but we did this as kids, me and my brother and my friends. We would have Friday night movie nights, and we would go up to the video store, walk up there, because it was, about a mile walk, and pick out, horror films. We'd stack up and, we'd come home, and Friday night would be movie night. It's just a tradition that I've carried over into as an adult and just enjoy doing. And yeah, I mean, I could easily just do the digital thing, and because I have these all on digital as well too, but there's something nostalgia about just taking this out and popping it into your VCR, just in tracking, because your tracking is off, and you're like, and once you get that straightened out, you just kick back and watch a movie and pray to God that your VCR doesn't use your tape.
I absolutely agree. Okay, here's my number 5, I guess, right? In no particular order.
Yeah, no particular order.
This is a bit of, because it's nostalgia. I believe this might be the first of the series that I saw. But also because as I've grown older, I've appreciated it more and more, and I think it's underrated, even though it's considered one of the worst in the series by a lot of people. It is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Ooh. But now look at that cover. That is the original. Yes, you do. Right there. That is the original cover, the original poster art as well for A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Whenever you see Elm Street 2 being re-released on DVD or Blu-ray or even VHS, you rarely see that version anymore. And that was the original version.
Hold it up just a little bit higher, because I want people to see something. Okay, so if anybody out there in this chat room and the younger generation watching this, and let's just say you might want to get into VHS collecting and you want to get the original, right where Dave's finger is, where it says media, that's the key thing you're looking for. If it says media at the bottom of it, that's an original. That comes from the 80s, the early 80s, first print, first pressing. So if you're someone who's very particular about getting that, that's what you're looking for. Yeah,
like the movie came out in 85, so this might not be like an original right thereafter, but on the tape here it says 1988. So
do I see a Canadian flag behind that?
You do, right here. Look at that.
Holy shit.
Look at that. That says it was it says duplicated.
Nothing. It's just blank, but it's the same media.
It's the same
original.
And I love how shiny yours is. This is not shiny because it's so, also because it took some water damage, to be fair. But this actually says where the Canadian flag is, it says duplicated, packaged, and printed in Canada. So they've and it's it says 1988.
Very
So
cool.
this is an 80s version of that, and it's taken some water damage. I actually had to Scotch tape it here as a
Good old
as a kid.
Scotch tape on VHS.
As a kid, I put
That
some.
just adds character, man.
It does, but it's an original. Look at this.
Number 2. They gotta let you know. Does man say that? Because this is an original. No, because I wonder if it's because it is the media now, but it says,
what does yours say?
It says, because that freaking light is. It says media at the top. It's got the old media, and then it just says Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge.
Well, see, now keep in mind, because
printed in 1986.
There you go. So that, So see, this is a repackaged 88 here in Canada, right? So there's going to be subtle differences from what you're buying in the States and from what I'm buying here in Canada. But what they are is they're both original versions of those respected movies, right? So what I got here in Canada in the 80s was this. And when you got in the States in the 80s was that. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. You know, so like right on the back, does yours look like that?
Yep, same 3 pictures. You got the dude in the shower scene.
Yep.
You got the what's her name look-alike there, Meryl Streep look-alike.
Yeah.
And Kevin Bacon wannabe.
Yeah. And I love it how right here, probably says the same thing on yours, right there. I love how it says New Line Cinema, Heroin Communications, and Smart Egg Pictures present a Robert Shea production. I love it. So that's cool stuff. But yeah, so both of these, what Tony has is an original from 86. What I have is an original from 88. So that's great. It was just repackaged here in Canada. So that's awesome. But it's the same thing.
The Scotch tape, man, you gotta love that. Scotch tape on VHS covers, man. God.
I love it. All right, you're up.
All right, well, regardless of what some popular YouTubers want to say, I think it's a classic film and will forever stand by that. Child's Play.
Oh, yeah.
Love Child's Play. It's a great film. It definitely, for the time in 88, the animatronics that they did, and everyone part of Don Mancini's production there, they just did a phenomenal job. Love this movie. It's one that I go back to every year and watch, whether I watch it digitally or if I pop it in and watch it on VHS. This is a reprint. This was a reprint from 90. What year was this reprinted? 90. No, it says 1988, but it came out in 1988, so it couldn't have.
Yeah, no, it's got to be.
I mean, it technically could have come out depending on what year or what time of year it came out in 88. I mean, yes, it could have been printed in it says 1988, but I know this was a reprint.
Yeah.
Because it's got the old MGM line.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know when I got this. I know I got it probably sometime in the 90s when I was really at the peak of collecting all my VHS tapes. I was a teenager, earning income, working part-time job, and was really stacking up my collection. But yeah, no, Chucky. Good old fucking Chuck.
Good old Chuck. Chuck. All right, for me, my next one is going to be... Now, this is a reprint as well. This is not an original. This is... That's funny how it says... That's so weird. On the back here, it says... Wow, that's so weird. Let me just quickly check something here. That's interesting. This actually might be a mistake. Yeah. I believe it's a mistake. On the back here, so this is a reprint. This is from... Before I show you it, printed in. Why isn't it telling me? I think I'm having the same problem that you did with your Chucky thing. It looks like it's 2000.
Oh, so you got the same type of collector's edition that I got.
The Fog?
Yeah.
So you have this version?
Well, not the Fog, but you see how it says movie time at the top?
Right.
It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Maybe I got this version in 2000. I don't know. I don't know specifically when. I know I've had it forever.
Well, here's what's crazy.
But it looks like it's from that same MGM re-release run that they did with their films.
Well, at the bottom here, it says copyright 2000 MGM Home Entertainment. So that's probably what it is. But here's what's even crazier. The Fog is a 1980 movie.
Yep.
It's from 1980, right? I don't know if you can see this. Probably not. You probably can't see it. It's way too small. But right down here where my finger is, it says 19.
It says 79.
It says 79. It says 79, and it also
That's actually you got to seal that, man, because that's a misprint.
It also says 79 up here as well. It's probably too blurry to see, but it says color approximately an hour and 30 minutes, high def, closed caption, copyright 1979. That's incorrect. So that's kind of cool.
Look at that.
Because the fog was
a little typo.
Yeah,
great
little
movie.
typo.
I've got that down there. That's a great movie, great flick to pop on.
Yep. So that'd be my number. What are we at? 3?
Yeah, we got 3. I got 3 left.
3 left. So this is my number 4 then. Is my number 4? I guess we're at 4. So we got 3 left, I guess. I don't know. Oh, well, we'll just keep going.
All right. You and I briefly talked. Well, we didn't briefly. We did a whole show on this a couple weeks ago. Got to go with my girl. Forever our prom queen, Carrie. Absolutely freaking love this. This was an MGM re-release that I got either in the early to mid 90s. But, I actually, when we did our stream a few weeks ago, this is, again, my bad habit. I ended up, I have the first pressing of the novel that came out in the 70s. This is what it looked like back then, and started to reread it again. And I got to tell you, the novel to screen adaptation is about as best as you're going to get. And as close as far as accuracy. They did not take any liberties to anything. Everything what you read is what you got on screen, and absolutely love this movie. And yeah, Dave and I did a whole show on Carrie and Christine a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going to go in depth on that again. If you want to know what we thought, go ahead and watch that show.
Yep. Okay, so this would be my number 3, I guess. Or number 2, whatever it is. Anyway, we'll say it's number 3. If we get one more in there, all right, that's cool. This is a reprint as well. This is from 2001, not the movie. The reprint is from 2001. The movie's from 1980, and it is a very obscure sort of cover that you probably it's hard to find now for the original Friday the 13th.
See, I have. My honorable mention, I have the original cover.
That's right.
This is the original. This is the original printing. This is the original what you got back in the 80s.
That's right. This is a reprint from 2001, Paramount Pictures. It says 2001 down there, 1980 the movie, and that's what the back looks like there.
It was blurry. Back it up.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yep.
Good old Mama Voorhees.
Yep. So that's kind of cool. And then, it just looks like that. So interesting cover.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off of you with my number 2 and go Friday the 13th Part 2. I know I'm going to get shit from people on why I chose this over the original. Look, this is my favorite version of Jason. On top of that, I got me some Amy Steele.
Oh, Ginny!
I can get me some Amy Steele in anything, okay? Whether it's this or April Fool's. Amy Steele, my God, you were just one fine blonde back in the 80s. But no, in all seriousness, it is a good sequel to the original. Look, nothing's ever definitive. That's why I made sure, I put Friday the 13th in an honorable mention. But as far as sequels go, they really honored the first film. It kept the tone of what the first film was. It didn't feel like it was out of place. It felt like even though they shot this in Connecticut and the first one was shot in New Jersey, you felt like you were in the same location. It didn't feel very different. Whereas like later on, like when you get to 3 and 4, it doesn't feel like the same location at all. But like I said, it is my favorite version of Jason, and it's a really good sequel. It's got my favorite kill, Mark, in the wheelchair. I think that's a lot of fans' favorite kill in the franchise, and that whole sequence and how they shot that. But yeah, and this is also an original. This is the original 81. When it was released in 82, VHS, and you got that. I don't know, you guys can't really see that because of the bright light, but basically it's got Mrs. Voorhees' head. It's got Amy Steele up there, running around trying to get away from Jason. It's got Sackhead Jason, and then it's got the campers around the campfire, and Paul is telling the story of Jason. And then it's got Jeff and Sandra, Jeff getting pierced through. So.
I think this is not in my list, but I'm going to show it anyway because I think I have it was so hard. Damn, we should have done a top 20. All right. I have the exact same one as you.
There you go.
Look, it's the exact same one.
Exact same one. Yeah,
exact same one. So, and I love this movie too, and I wanted to put it in there, but I'm like,
it's hard, right? You know, it's like,
you know what?
I know some people might go, dude, how is he putting Friday 2 over Friday the It's like, I'm not really, because I did mention Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It's just, I love Friday the 13th Part 2. It's probably, no, it is my favorite Friday. It's a great movie. It's a fun movie, and it's, like I said, it's my favorite version of
That's
Jason.
right. That's right. But you know, I also have Friday the 13th. Let me try that again. Friday the 13th, part 3, 4, 5, 6 on VHS as well. Nice. But I didn't put them in here because I'm like, I mean, the whole list could be Friday the 13th. So
right.
I got to be decided. So you know what? Honorable mention. There we go. Honorable mention. Okay, so my number 2. Oh God, we're getting so close. Classic. Not only a classic of the genre, and it is considered horror to a point. I mean, it does fall in that genre. If you were to walk into the video store back in the 80s or 90s, you would find this in the horror section. But it is also one of the classic films in the history of cinema. And that, of course, is the... first, let me just check to see if this is an original... Well, no, it won't be an original from the 80s. When did I get this? I think it's 90s. I think I got this in the 90s, even though it's not... Oh, wait. 1991. Okay, so I got this in 91. So still a long time ago. But it's the classic Jaws.
There it is. I didn't pick Jaws because I don't categorize Jaws as a horror film. I categorize it more as a drama and thriller. But
you can make the argument for both.
You can. It can be horror or it can be drama. I mean, it really can go either way.
Yeah. It's a drama, horror, thriller, or whatever. But if you walked into the video store, what section would you find that in? You'd find it in the horror section. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I classify it. But this is a print from 1991. But I've
got it down there as well too. Yeah. Mine's the anniversary edition one. I've got that down there.
I love how the case is nothing but the poster.
Shark. Yes. See, mine is like that, but then it's cut off with the anniversary crap at the top.
Yeah, I hate that shit. I love just that. I love that. So that's there you go. Number 2. All right. Well,
mine's special. My number 1 is special.
Okay.
Because this is the very first VHS that I ever purchased. The first horror VHS that I've ever purchased with the help of my mom and my cousin. It was birthday money that I had. The reason why I purchased it is because I thought the cover of the case just looked really fucking cool. I had no fucking clue what I was buying. But through the years, since 1987, it has taken a beating. It's got tape on it, but now I have it in a special casing, which I'm going to tell you now you might want to do with your Nightmare on Elm Street, and that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's in a casing. I don't want to open up the casing on it.
Love it. Look at that. Look at that cover art. Oh, it's gorgeous.
You don't get cover art like this anymore today, which really fucking sucks. You got Sally's eyes bugging out there. You've got, Gunner on the front there running with the chainsaw. I think it's him. I don't think they had anybody else, or it could have been a drawing of Gunner at the end. And then, of course, on the back, you've got, Pam about to get hooked. You got the old media logo there at the bottom of it. Right. It's got on the side here, it's got duct tape on the side, or not duct tape. It's got regular masking tape here on the side. I mean, like I said, it's got a special casing for VHS. You can get them online, Dave, for like less than $5, and they'll do them.
Oh, yeah.
But 20 or 30 of them, and I got this because it's the first one, it's the first thing I ever bought. With birthday money, not knowing what the hell I was buying. And then after that, man, I became this 7-year-old kid. I told that story on our stream a week ago, running around with a Fisher-Price chainsaw thinking I'm Leatherface. Of course, that's right. Like I said a week ago, today, if I were doing that, people would think my mom was a bad parent, but back in the 80s, no one cared and everyone was lighthearted and thought it was cute. Like, oh, look, he's mimicking Leatherface. But you always remember the first ones you buy, and this was the first one that I ever bought. And
very cool.
So that's fine. It's not my number 1, but it's my number 1 in the sense of it's the first one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I understand that for sure. That's awesome. That I would maybe I'm gonna try and look around. Maybe somewhere somebody's got it. They're selling. I love the cover of that. That's awesome.
It's great. Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, so my number 1, again, no particular order. I wish I had an original from the 80s, but I do not. And I say the 80s, even though the movie came out in I was probably going to give it away for Tony anyway. 1974. So I had to get a 25th.
Both are 1974.
They are. I had to get a 25th anniversary edition from 1999, but nonetheless, it is the original, the classic, the Canadian movie, Black Christmas. And
came out 2 months apart and changed the genre of horror forever.
They absolutely did. Absolutely did. And this, that's what it looks like there. Oh, hey, it hasn't been rewound. Uh-oh. I got to rewind that. Running time, 98 minutes. That's cool. Yeah, so that definitely, yeah, that's just awesome. Of course, it says
Black Christmas, and I'm sure we'll be doing a stream on this, especially like maybe when December rolls around.
Yeah, because of course I'm also in development on It's Me, Billy, so it'll be good to talk about that as well.
But it's such a great movie. I mean, it's, if you were to say the grandfathers of the genre, you could definitely put Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre up there. That really were part of the origins. I know Psycho can be listed in there as well too, and a few others. But when you watch a movie like Black Christmas and you watch Chainsaw Massacre, these two movies came out 2 months apart from each other in 74. I mean, the audience back then must have been like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, they're not used to seeing this. They're not used to seeing these types of movies, which probably back then must have been like satire as fuck.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Imagine, coming off the heels of The Exorcist in 73. But yeah, Black Christmas, I watched that, through watching it I've watched it before, but through our friendship and doing the stream, rewatching it again, it's just such a fucking great movie. I mean, yeah, it's got another Margot Kidder, horror film.
Yeah.
But just, when you want to execute suspense without revealing too much, just watch Black Christmas, man.
Oh, yeah.
That's the perfect formula for it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And like I said, the house where they shot that's not too far away from me, so it's still there. I don't believe it was ever a sorority house. It was just a nice home that, they pretended was a sorority house, but it's still there. So before we wrap up and go to the Q&A, I have a couple of videos here that I brought out because I was on the fly. I was trying to figure out whether or not. Okay. All right. So now I have, oh God. I don't know if you can see up there, folks, underneath the Michael Myers mask in the middle there, I have, an original Halloween 2. I have an original Halloween 2 right in the middle there.
You know what I have? I have the Blockbuster Halloween 2. Everybody knows that one with the green freaking, techno color looking freaking cover.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Techno club.
No, that there is just the Halloween 2 poster. It's so great. Like, it's just such a, it looks awesome. It looks awesome. I should, yeah, a couple of honorable mentions that I have immediately at my disposal here would be, I Know What You Did Last Summer. There you go. There's an original from 1997.
Very cool.
There you go. And of course,
do a quick one.
All right.
It. The original It from 1990. Tommy Lee Wallace directed it, a Halloween alum. We'll probably be talking about this very soon. I can imagine.
I see your It and I raise you a, check out this case, Jaws 2. Look at this case.
Holy shit, the clamshell case. That is fucking retro as fuck.
Look at this.
Don't ever get rid of that, man. That is fucking
and it's not rewound. I never rewind.
Rewind your shit, bro.
Fuck that. I don't rewind shit.
All right.
But here's the thing. Look at that. Look at that. Fucking that shit. Look at the color across here.
I'm more focused on the clamshell casing, dude. That's fucking.
Oh yeah, check this out.
Clamshell casing.
Look at this.
Like, I have movies like that, but it's more like I have the Wizard of Oz is like that, E.T. is like that, Superman. A Christmas Story, Goonies. I'm looking at them right now. Never-Ending Story, Princess Bride. So I didn't get any horror films that were in the old classic clamshells like that. That's fucking cool as fuck.
All
All right, well, mine's not as cool as yours, but I will throw out a little love to the Blair Witch Project. I will say the cover to the Blair Witch Project, this is one we got in the 90s. Very cool with Heather's eyes and, snot coming out of her nose, shit, and the little fucking tree guy there. So, yeah, Blair Witch. Quick honorable. I got two.
All right, quick honorable. I've got a couple here. Shitty movie, but I bought it just for the eye candy of my girl. So I still know what you did last summer.
Wow, he's got them both, folks.
I got them both.
He loves him some I almost said J-Lo.
JLH.
J-Love. Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Lost Boys, such a great film. I'm sure we'll be doing a stream on this at some point.
Oh, for sure.
And talking about this movie. I love this movie. It's a great movie to watch, especially in October around Halloween.
Yep, I agree. Peter Horton, Linda Hamilton. Anybody? Peter Horton, Linda Hamilton?
Terminator?
Children of
the Corn. I don't know why. My mind just went to Terminator. Do I have? Yeah, I got that down there as well.
Children of the Corn. Children of the Corn.
All right, I got one more for you.
All right,
Mr. Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, I wish I had that on VHS. I don't. No, I don't have it on VHS. I have it on Blu-ray.
Oh,
but not VHS. No.
Yeah, I've got this. I got pretty much all of Carpenter's classics on VHS. Halloween, Fog, The Thing, Christine. I shared that earlier. I think that's pretty much. Oh no, and I got They Live as well too.
All right. Well, I could keep going here. I got two more left.
I want to get to the chat room and get to.
I got questions. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers down there. You can probably see his face. That original.
Actually is one of my favorite posters. I have that print. I love that poster print.
Yeah, you can see it down there in the glass. And if you look all the way down here, see that little Michael Myers mask? That's 5.
Yeah,
that's an abysmal 5. And in the case back there, I also
see Friday 4.
Friday 4 is right 5. There. Yeah, 5's kind of right in there a little bit. You can kind of see it. And then, of course, the original Halloween 2 up there, which is amazing. I got Elm Street 3, Friday 3 as well back there. Okay, last two for me.
The Star Wars trilogy that I see back there too.
That is. I just bought this Black Series Darth Vader helmet. It's fucking fantastic. It's fucking great.
Behind me I got Nightmare 3 like you, and I got Clockwork Orange up there. The Halloween series is back there. Friday 13th Part 6 is right there, and the rest of those bad boys are down underneath the TV area.
That's right. Okay, my last two are going to be. Let me see if this is an original. This might be an original. The movies
from Friday the 13th. I only have 1, 2, and 6.
Dude,
those are the only ones I have left on VHS.
This is totally an original. Oh, this is wild. Okay, check out this.
I have Salem's Lot. I just saw someone say that. I have that back there too. Cujo, I got that down there, but not like what you got. You got a better one than I did.
Dude, look at this. Look at that shit. Wait.
I freaking love that shit. Yours is better than mine.
It's an original Cujo.
That is fucking dope. This is mine.
Yeah.
It's just her and the dog in the house. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
That is. Hold up the casing again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's unbelievable. Hang on a sec here. Da.
I like you. No. The casing, not the.
Oh, the casing. Yep.
Yeah.
Right here. There you go.
Yeah, that's fucking badass. I mean, I like mine, but it's the reprinting of it. That it was in 1994. Reprint. Yours is the original. That's cool cover.
This is original.
No, yours is better.
This is 1983. Like it says right here, 1983, 83, 83, all over the place. And I remember I've had this since the 80s. Awesome shit. And then my last one, I think this might be a reprint. Not sure. I think it is though. Weird. Anyway, House.
Classic. Norm!
I love this fucking movie.
Norm!
This is great. Ding dong, you're dead.
I know. I can't help but not think of George Wendt. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. But I just love it. It's just great. So, Yeah. There you go. And I mean,
those who don't know what Dave and I are talking about, and how George Wendt played a character by the name of Norm on the show called Cheers, a little show that I happen to be my favorite show of all time. And part of the show, when he would enter the bar, everybody would yell out, "Norm!" So for those who didn't know the reference of what Dave and I were talking about,
that's right.
House is a fucking great movie, dude.
It's great. Oh, absolutely fantastic. Yeah. No, I love, and directed by Steve Miner, who directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3 and Halloween H2O. And I mean, Tony and I could keep going here, but for the sake of time, let's jump to the Q&A now. All right, Q&A time. Q&A time.
Guys' questions.
Let's get the questions.
Are they remaking Cujo? I don't know. Did you hear anything
I've heard they've tossed it around as an idea that they may, but you know, we'll see. I mean, if they remake Cujo, it'll probably be a CGI dog, and who the fuck wants to see that?
Pretty much.
Okay, let's see here. The Film Addict says, "Hey, Dave and Tony, are you guys going to see the second Joker trailer Wednesday? Are we going to see the second Joker trailer Wednesday?" You mean...
yeah, when it comes out, yeah, for sure.
When it comes out, yeah. I'm not going anywhere to see it. I'll catch it online. But yeah, of course, yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Now that he says that, maybe I'll go find myself a little spot up on the hillside of Georgia overlooking the mountains. Maybe when the sun is setting, pour myself some vino, and serenade Casey a few tunes, and then watch the trailer.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
That's the game plan.
Exactly. Let's see here. Baltimore Media says, "Tony and Dave, which slasher out of the big three has the best sequels?" Well, it all
the big three. You mean Halloween, Friday, and Nightmare, right?
Yeah, it all depends on what you mean by best. Like, what do you mean by best? Do you mean what we like the best? What the collective thinks is the best? Like, has the most gore, the best kills, the best story? I think the most consistent series, even though there's a lot of the movies in there that I don't like, the most consistent series in terms of story, even though it got fucking dumb, would be Friday the 13th.
That's what I was going to say. As far as consistency, as bad as it got, they stayed consistent from start to finish. You got to give them credit with that. They never really went off the deep end with their storyline, other than the fact that it just got really fucking stupid. Yeah. As stupid as it got, I have to agree with you on that. It's not like with Halloween and Choose Your Adventure shit and Nightmare, same thing. Nightmare kind of got a little bit, wonky there towards the end. But Friday, it really stayed fucking consistent.
Oh, yeah. And Halloween is the worst of them. Let's see here. Super chat from Brandon Barry. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. Thoughts on the Lost Boys TV series coming to CW? I didn't even know there was one coming to CW.
I read up on that and just I was gonna say as long as it's not some teen drama, but then I was gonna think where it's coming from. At CW, it's gonna be teen drama, and I expect it to be, whatever. Some like crossover of Twilight meets fucking 90210 bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Bam98 says, "If you had to pick one, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 or Halloween 2007, if I had to pick one in terms of which one I like better."
First of all, Bam98, is that Bam Margera? Just out of curiosity, are you a Viva La Bam and Jackass fan? If I had to pick one, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, Halloween 2007. I'd pick Zombies remake over the remake of Nightmare.
Yeah, I probably would too. If that is exactly what the question is asking. Adam Carl Green says, "If you could change anything about Halloween 78, what would it be?" If I could change anything about Halloween 78, what would it be? Probably just
in the fall. That would be it.
That's just great. Yeah.
To make it look more of autumn. Other than that, it's almost the perfect movie.
Yeah. I mean, some of the dialogue could have been a little less wooden, and there's some editing choices that might be needed to be polished up a bit. But Tony hits the big one. Have it actually take place in the Midwest would be amazing.
Hey, jerk! Speed kills.
Yeah.
Annie, one of these days you're gonna get us into real big trouble. So you
totally.
coming over tonight? You coming over tonight? I don't know. I don't want to get you into real big, deep trouble. Oh, come on. We've been planning this for months. That's so sad that we know lines like this.
Come on, Lori. Oh, I know.
We could probably recite that movie from start to finish.
Oh, I can. When I watch any of the... I totally can. When I watch any of the Indiana Jones movies or the original Star Wars trilogy or the original Halloween or the original Elm Street. I know the lines before they come, and I used to annoy the fuck out of people when I would say the lines as it was dumb. Okay, let's see here. Super chat just came in from Nathan Oswald. Thank you, Nathan. Nathan says, for me, Halloween has the better slasher. Friday the 13th has the better movies, but Elm Street has the better lore. I disagree with that. I actually think the best slasher out of them is probably Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
In terms of the just real gritty
slasher,
blood, gore,
chop them up type thing.
Yeah.
The lore, I have to. Here's the thing, Nathan. I liked the lore with Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. When you get to the point of 100 men impregnating one woman, I'm sorry, but I'm just not fucking buying that. Right. Just no. But if you're talking about the lore, if your question now is regarding the lore of the original, what we knew of Freddy in the original film, this child molester guy who somehow manages to come back and kill kids in their dream, that lore, yes, totally love what Wes Craven created. The 100 men impregnating women shit as it evolves to and what we now know. No, I would have to say of the lore, Michael would be better. The original way Michael was depicted in sort of has carried on now with the new films, I guess we can say, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was never a big fan of the Son of 1,000 Maniacs or 100 Maniacs or whatever it was.
It is, yeah.
I never was a big fan of that because it almost gives him an excuse. It's almost like you're trying to paint a sympathetic sort of spin on his actions, and there should be no sympathy to his actions. There's no excuse for what he did, whether he was a child molester or a child murderer or a combination of both. It all depends on, what, I guess, movie you're, talking about. But I mean, there should be no excuse for what he did. And, to know his backstory, to know that maybe he came from a broken home or he was psychologically fucked up, or that's fine. It's fine to know backstory with Freddy because he is human and you're not trying to, paint him in a positive light. Sorry.
That's the one part of Freddy's Dead that I semi-like is those flashback sequence when Amanda has those sequences of her and her dad. They look like they're just this normal family living out in this quiet neighborhood of Springwood. Everything seems fine. That's the kind of shit that creeps you out. It's when it comes from the least expected area. Like Dave just said, when it comes from that sympathetic side of, okay, his mom got impregnated by 100,000, whatever it is, 1,000, not 100,000, but 1,000, maybe 100,000. That woman be hurting for
rock on Amanda Kruger, bitches.
Yeah. But when like Dave said, when you're painting that picture, you begin to have the sympathetic side to Freddy. And you don't want to have a sympathetic feeling to this character. It's got to be disturbing and creepy. And that's why I said, as bad as Freddy's Dead is, when you look at those flashback sequence of Freddy living in this quiet neighborhood of Springwood, looks like a normal guy, nice house, all that stuff, until you find out what's hidden in his shed, that his daughter's not supposed to go down to. That's the creep factor of Freddy, this creep guy in the neighborhood that I really like. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, for sure. A couple super chats came in here. Let's see here.
I was like, 100,000. Yeah, she got around.
She did. Frank Riker, thanks, Frank, says, what's your first bootleg VHS tape on the square tab copy?
I don't want to admit.
Tape on the square tab. What's your first?
I don't want to admit mine. Mine's embarrassing.
I don't think I ever did. I don't know if I had a bootleg copy.
Titanic.
Oh, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Titanic's a great movie. I like Titanic.
Imagine now, back in the 97.
I know, you're an 18-year-old kid. I get it.
It was huge, okay? And I went into New York City one day with a group of girls, thankfully, and there's this street peddler who was, had it on the street, and this was like I'm talking like people don't understand, like if you weren't around then, this movie, first of all, made buku dollars, and it was huge. I mean, it was seriously huge.
Yep.
Yeah, I bought a bootleg copy of it, and actually ended up in because I was part of the video production in high school. And my choir department, they knew that I had this, and he asked me would I mind making a highlight video of the movie because they were singing the song in one of their concerts. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I made them a highlight video at a time when the movie hadn't come out on VHS yet for us to be able to do that. Right. So it added to their show and shit like that. But yeah, I know I'm letting down my horror fans.
You know what? Come to think of it, I think my first bootleg copy, it might have been a bootleg copy. It might have been, was actually a Swedish film, a kid's film that that was one of Christian Bale's first movies he was ever in. It's from 1987. Christopher Lee was the villain. I want to know if I do that. See, it's hard to ask people, do you know what it is? Because people can Google that shit now. But anyway, it was called, the Swedish name was Mio min Mio. And the English translation is Mio and the Land of Far Away. Okay. And it was a great kids movie from 1987. Christian Bale played banker, and it's anyway. You got to check it out. It's really. I think that might have been bootlegged. Funny enough. So that was one of my favorite kids movies of all time. I've been trying to get it on DVD and Blu-ray, but it's next to impossible to do. So definitely one of my favorite kids movies. Frank Riker follows up with a super chat, and he says, I'll get to Grave Warmers in a second here. Says, what song are you playing if you went on a rampage? AC/DC's Highway to Hell is the first thing that came into my head. I don't know, Tony?
Anything from Rob Zombie. Anything from his Greatest Hits album.
Let the Bodies Hit the Floor?
Yeah.
Grave Warmer.
Music.
Nice. Grave Warmer super chat says, do you guys like Sphere with Dustin Hoffman or Event Horizon with Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne? Would be a cool double feature. I haven't seen Sphere. I've seen Event Horizon, and I like that movie. I thought that was all right. I'd have to see Sphere though.
Yeah, it's a possibility we can do that as a double.
Yep. Let's see here. You pick one, Tony.
Kenny525. Any thoughts on Jeepers Creepers 4 rumored to be filmed in Dave's country, Canada? Dave's country. Dave's country. That's right. It is Dave McRae's country. Y'all just don't know. Broadcasting from his porta potty in Toronto.
That's right.
When it comes to Jeepers Creepers, it's unfortunate because of the stupid director who was ruining this movie. Because I like the movie itself. I hate the black cloud that's fucking attached to it because I always feel very like tread carefully on what you say when it comes to this movie because everything that's attached to it. Obviously, the director won't be attached to part 4, and if they do a part 4, I mean, cool. I didn't see 3 until it was eventually on Netflix, which I pay for it anyways through my Netflix subscription. So that's when I finally saw it. I didn't support it and see it in theaters because of what was happening at that. Like everybody pretty much was boycotting that movie. But eventually it did show up on Netflix. I was like, fuck it, just watch it. But God, I hate that we have to tread carefully talking about this movie because I do like The Creeper. It is based on true events. If you ever get a chance to look it up online, but there's true stories around the original film, especially, but just fucking stupid director.
Yeah, I haven't watched Creepers 3 yet. I liked the first one. I thought that was kind of cool. Second one, I thought the second one is where they're all trapped on the school bus, right? I think is that the second one? Yeah. I thought it was all right. It is what it is. I've never been a big Creeper fan, but I certainly like the look of the Creeper.
That's what I mean.
I like the look of the villain. Yeah. But it is unfortunate that the director is a fucking pedophile. And that he went to jail for it, I believe, or whatever, and now he's out, and I don't know. Yeah, it's a whole bad case of shit right there. But look, I mean, there's often, if I can just say this, often, talent. I mean, we often believe, and I'm not saying that The Creeper is this classic or anything like that, but we often forget that there are many talented people in this industry that are scuzzy people. I mean, you can be very talented and a fucking pedophile. You can be very talented and a murderer. You can be extremely talented and a wife abuser. You can be. I mean, it's
just
not
OJ.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not either or. I mean, it's not, it's not either or. There are incredibly talented people all over the place that are horrible individuals. They're not mutually talent and, and being the kind of person you are privately is they're not mutually exclusive. So, I mean, we often forget that because we see certain people in a certain light. I mean, look at Cosby. I mean, it's unfortunate, and I have no doubt in my mind that as we continue to get older, I think there's probably other people out there that are sweating buckets, with information.
Sure.
Oh yeah. People you wouldn't even think.
Yep.
You'd go, are you like, imagine if it came out like Tom Hanks, like Bill Cosby being accused is like Tom Hanks being accused of that. Now, there's no evidence to suggest that Tom Hanks is that kind of a man, privately, not at all. But there's almost a certain level where it's like, if the evidence is there and it does fit, it's like, wow, and on some level it's like, well, but they're not mute. People can be, I mean, look at Kevin Spacey, incredibly talented man, but his private life, I mean, so we often forget that, we go, wow, the director of Jeepers Creepers was that? Yeah, he was. He was a fucking, he diddled kids. So, I mean, it's like, Jesus Christ, it's sad shit. Anyway.
Yes. There was a cool question here because actually I was going to suggest this to you because I think it's the only one this year. And yes, Adam Carl Green, can we get a Two Dudes Friday the 13th special on September 13th? I was going to suggest that actually to Dave, that I actually blocked off my Friday night that night, that if he wanted to do a special, that would be cool to do because if it's Friday the 13th and we can make up for our technical disaster of Texas Chainsaw Massacre that we planned months ahead. So if it works for Dave's schedule, I'm totally down with that.
Down with what again? Sorry, I was reading something.
Doing from Adam Carl Green. Can we get a Two Dudes Friday night special on September 13th when it's Friday the 13th?
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
Your schedule, yeah. Possibly. I mean, it works for mine because I've actually got that night blocked off just in case.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to. I can't promise it, but I'll definitely take a look and we'll see if we can make it work.
Sure. There you go.
For sure. Let me see here. But did I miss a super chat? Frank Riker. Oh, I didn't get Grave Warner. No, I did get her.
Michelle Ark asked us if there was any VHS stores still around. None in my area of Georgia. Dave, anything in Toronto?
No. There's like little independent shops you can go into where they have old VHSs, used ones for sale.
Yeah, that for sale. Like my vinyl record store, they have a section of VHS tapes for sale.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. And but not for rent. There's no video stores like Blockbuster or anything like that up here anymore. They're all gone. I think the first to go was Jumbo, then Blockbuster, and then Rogers Video. Like we had a few big chains up here, and they're all. I think there might be one Jumbo Video in Belleville, Ontario, which is about 2 hours east of Toronto. It's a town of about 50,000 maybe. They might have one last Jumbo Video. At least they did for a number of years. It might be defunct now too. I'd have to check that out. But other than that, nah, it's all done.
You know what? I had some this week, and I promised them I would ask during the stream. There was a lot of people who would ask me this, my thoughts on, or our thoughts, actually, not mine, but our thoughts on this whole thing with Sony and Disney and Spider-Man. My thought is this. After reading everything and absorbing what other people have had to say online about it, I really do side with Sony. I think Sony did the right thing. This is their IP. This is their property. I think Disney needs to be put in check because they're trying to monopolize everything on the market. And Sony was like, fuck you. We're not going to be intimidated by you guys. And I think Sony came back with a great counter from the 50-50. I thought that 70-30 was way more than fair. And the only people they're really hurting at the end of the day with, their dick measuring contest is the fans. And hopefully this isn't a done deal and that Sony and Disney and Marvel can, that's not three places, but two places, but Disney, Marvel, Sony, can get back to the table and say, hey, let's figure this out and get it right. Because I have enjoyed Tom Holland in the MCU and his version of Spider-Man, and I would hate to see it to be taken out because he still has contractually one more picture to do. Any thoughts on that with what you saw and read on it?
Yeah, I was going to do a video on it, but
I'm on Sony's side. It's Disney's fault, just to be clear on that.
Yeah, I am, from what I have read, I am too. Because my understanding is that Disney wanted to alter the deal a little bit because things have been successful. There's nothing wrong with that. They came back to Sony and said, hey, things have been going really good. Endgame was successful. Far From Home was successful. The Spider-Man one that just released was successful.
The Avengers movies.
Exactly. We're thinking that, and let's keep in mind that Sony doesn't see a dollar from those films, by the way.
Right.
We're thinking that maybe we'd like to kind of restructure a couple of things. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing good. There's nothing wrong with essentially not that Sony is Marvel's boss, but there's nothing wrong with doing hard work, doing good work, going to your boss and asking for a raise. Essentially, in a sort of analogy sort of sense. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, but there is something very wrong with asking for 10 times what you're making.
10.
And I cannot...
That's not even exaggerating, folks.
No, it's not. It's not. Because my understanding is that Disney was currently getting 5%.
5%, right.
Of... and then they wanted 50 or 51-50 split or something. I mean,
they went from 5 to 50.
That's insane. It's like making what? $500 a month and asking for...
Sony would basically be losing their biggest franchise.
Yeah, and they wanted to be able to have creative control in what Sony does with the character, even though...
Venom and the other IPs.
Right. And there's from what I've been reading, and a couple of the people that are more knowledgeable than me on the situation that I've been reading sort of give their thoughts, I agree. No studio executive in their right mind would have said yes to that. Not Disney, not Universal, not Sony, not Paramount, not anybody. I cannot believe in good conscience that Disney thought that was actually going to work. It feels like a marketing ploy, knowing that they would be turned down, knowing that they would probably have most of the backing from the fans that don't know their fucking ass from their elbow because they don't understand nuance. They only read headlines and they don't bother reading the stories. And because they're emotionally attached to Marvel and the MCU, because it's been one of the most successful cinematic experiences in the history of cinema, it's being sort of touted on surface level like, Sony's taken, Spider-Man back. Well, not exactly here.
They never gave him up.
They let
Marvel borrow him.
No, and what Sony did was, essentially, if you make $500 a month, you're asking your boss now for $5,000 a month. That's fucking ridiculous. Is it 5,000? I think that's right. I think that's 10 times more. Anyway, something right. That's ridiculous. Okay, that's insane. Now, what Sony did, from my understanding, is that they countered with, how about 70 or 70-30? That's an amazing raise.
25%, right?
Amazing. And Disney walked. Disney is a greedy motherfucker. Now, they have been very successful with Marvel. Not so much with Star Wars, but it depends on how you look at it. Business-wise, they've been very successful with Star Wars because, Solo aside, each one of the Star Wars movies they've made are billion-dollar movies. One is a $2 billion film. So they've been successful. And you're right. From my understanding, is they want their feet also in with Venom. They already have the merchandising rights, I believe, or they make a percentage of the merchandise. It's something like that.
It's so ludicrous that Disney should have just kept their mouths shut. Enjoy the fucking ride that we're on right now. Keep creating the content. Think of here's the thing. They just did Endgame. You've lost RDJ. You've lost Chris Evans. So you're not getting Iron Man. You're not getting Captain America.
Right.
You're losing a lot of your hardcore, the heart of this franchise. But you had the potential of a lot of cool new projects that you could have done. Now with the acquisition of Fox, you could have done what everybody's been dying to see, which is a Deadpool Spider-Man crossover with Ryan Reynolds and Tom Holland. Are you fucking kidding me? don't fucking blow this, because you can actually now give that to the fucking fan base out there who would love to see that. For those who are hardcore fans, know that type of a crossover of Spider-Man and fucking Deadpool would absolutely, and with those two actors, they would fucking sign up for that in a heartbeat.
Well, and it's just,
and the other stuff that they could do with it. I mean, don't fuck this up, because you've already lost two of your anchors here for your franchise. You're not going to carry this on with Black Widow. You need Tom Holland because he's still young enough and he can carry Spider-Man for a long time. And it's a successful IP for you guys right now.
Yeah, and people often forget again, I'm going by what I've been reading. I've been reading a lot of the trades and about what they've been saying. This is Disney's deal. The 5% was Disney's deal. That wasn't Sony's deal. I mean, Sony signed off on it and agreed to it, obviously. Right. But Disney was the one who came up with the deal of 5% and the current deal that they've had up to this point. Sony isn't stiffing Disney at all. Disney is asking for way too much. No, if Sony had gone to Disney and said, could we have 50-50? Disney would have turned to Sony and said, go fuck yourself. That's exactly what they would have said. And Sony just turned to Disney and said, go fuck yourself. Because anybody would say that. You know, if I had a client or employee that said, hey, I know you're paying me $500 a month. Could I have $5,000? I'd say, go fuck yourself. What do you want? You know, $800 a month, $900? You know, you want $5,000? What are you on crack? Get the fuck out of here. It ain't going to happen. And you cannot help but feel that Disney knew that. They're not dumb. They're not dumb. There's no, they know how the studios work. They know that the head of Sony is not going to be like, yeah, okay, man, let's do it. They know that. So I can't help but feel that this was deliberate, a calculated creative, a calculated marketing move to help get the fans on their side. I don't know that for a fact. I have no evidence that is the case, but the offer in terms of the raise in percentage was so ludicrous, it's very difficult to take seriously. It's almost satire, like I'm reading some fucking cartoon. It's like, what? What are you on? Like, it's so dumb. You already have all of this, and now you want all of this? Go fuck yourself. So
they're planning to do another Avengers movie, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, God, and I know they want Ryan Reynolds to be a part of it in Deadpool, and I'm just thinking, my God, the comedic of Ryan Reynolds and fucking Tom Holland, right, being all serious, like, you know, we got to do this for Mr. Stark, and Deadpool's just sitting up there like, no, not going to do it. You know, just whatever. You just that you need that, because I'm sorry, without Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and, you know, whoever, you know, maybe, I don't know if Chris Hemsworth is going to come back and do, I know he's doing another Thor movie, but I don't know if he's going to do any more Avengers movies. But I know Marvel is still planning to push some more Avengers movies. I don't know if you're going to draw seats if you don't have some key names in there. And one of those key names has to be Tom Holland. Or if you don't have him, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to sound mean to, you know, Scarlett Johansson, who did fine as a subpar character actor, not subpar, but as a character actor in the Avengers movies, and that's what she was. You know, I know she's getting her own movie here next year, but let's be real. If that announcement is true that Ryan Reynolds is making a cameo appearance at the end, and this is his first time being introduced as Deadpool in this cinematic universe of Marvel, that is the real reason why that movie is going to do well opening weekend at the box office. It's not because they're going to go see Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. It's because everyone wants to see, if the rumors are true, is what Ryan Reynolds' part now is going to be with this whole new universe.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that side of it. You seem to know more about it than I do. But I will say that I don't think it's a lost cause. I mean, I don't think, you know, it's not like they need each other, but certainly it's beneficial if they have each other. Because I think, didn't the Spider-Man movies, like, they did. Now, again, keep in mind, just you may not have liked Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 or 2 or Spider-Man 3 or 2, whatever. You may not like them, but from a business perspective, they were all extremely profitable. And I think they all made like $500 or $600 million at the box office. So that's a good chunk of change. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is Sony, I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's arguably the best Spider-Man movie ever made. And that's Sony, and it has nothing to do with Marvel. So I think Spider-Man will be fine, especially since, if Sony makes another film that is, disconnected from Marvel, you bet people are going to want to go see it because check it out now, right? It's now a non-Marvel Spider-Man again, so that's going to put asses in the seats. But obviously it's beneficial if they can work together. But Disney, from what I understand and what I've read, Disney, and then to come back and say, what about 70-30 and Disney walks, that tells me that they weren't interested in a deal in the first place. They were interested in causing a ruckus because there's no studio executive, nobody, you at home right now, listening to my voice, your employee comes to you and asks for a 10 times raise. You're not going to give it to them. Yep. What the fuck are you talking about? And then you come back and say, what about 70-30, which is 25% more? And they walk? There's something going on there. There's something they were looking for, or something it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense unless they've developed some sort of major crack addiction, and they got to pay off their debt. It doesn't make sense why they would not take 25% more than what they're getting now. It doesn't make any sense. So I think there's more to it than we've been led on to believe. Of course, that's pure speculation on my part. But from what I can tell, Disney is kind of in the wrong here. I'm disappointed. So, we'll see. But maybe some more stuff will come out that we didn't know about Sony, and we'll be like, oh, wait a minute, the tables will turn again. Who the fuck knows?
Who knows?
All right, let's take a few more.
Go ahead.
Let's see here.
I have seen Endgame, by the way, Aaron. Aaron said I yet to see. No, I've seen Endgame. I'm just basing it off of all the information that we have gotten. And you can look it up online for Avengers 5. Right now, they have a release date for Avengers 5 of 2022. That's the projected. For some people said that I was wrong on that. No, just do a quick Google and you'll find that out. And you'll see that that's part of the Phase 4 plan and where they're planning to take this next part. But like, how? I mean, what are you going to do? Like I said, you don't have RDJ, you don't have Chris Evans, which is why I said that to begin with. So right there, that should have been your first clue that I saw Endgame. Taking those two out of the equation, who are you going to have anchor an Avengers movie? You're not going to have it anchored by, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get it Scarlett Johansson. I guess people might go see it because of Hulk, but you need, the whole point of the Avengers is it's the team. And if you don't have Tom Holland there as Spider-Man, that's a big piece of that team that's now supposed to be carrying the mantle of this next phase for Marvel. And without it, you're going to be hurting.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. We'll see what happens. But I just laugh at the fans that really just read headlines, and because they have an emotional attachment to Marvel, and Marvel has given them so many beautiful gifts, they just see a headline and they hear what their friends are talking about, and they don't dive deeper into the story. Do yourself a favor and read about the stories, but read about it from more objective sources like the trades, like Hollywood Reporter, Variety, Deadline. Don't read it from some, Jimbo's, superhero blog, because they're more likely to come at it from a certain perspective. You want to go to the big trades that are supposed to be as objective as possible, right? Because they're just delivering the bare bones facts. It doesn't matter if they're a superhero fan or if they're a Marvel fan or not. These are the facts of what is going on. So just take 5 minutes and read the article, please. And then make your informed decision. And if you still side with, Disney, then hey, that's fair, right? That's fair. I think you're insane, but whatever. Okay, let's see here. Super chat.
Jim Dorsey.
Yeah, he says, talk about the horrors of trying to rent a video game or VHS and it was always out of stock. Oh, I know.
I didn't really have that problem because horror movies, unless you were a fan of the genre, I never really had trouble renting horror movies.
Horror movies, no. That's true. Yes.
I never had trouble renting horror films. It was the popular films of our time, whether it was the 80s or if it was the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. But yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, it was always a nuisance when you'd go into a video store and they didn't have one to read. You're like, oh, damn, no.
6 of the new release until Blockbuster came out, and then they had like 100, 100 like lining up in a row and like stacked 5 deep.
I know, it was insane. James Gaxiola says, at Dave McRae, John Carpenter recently said that we shouldn't count on definitive ending of the Halloween franchise. Your thoughts? We talked about that earlier in the stream very quickly. I mean, obviously, yes, he's talking from a business perspective. There's probably going to be more Halloween movies if they continue to make money. I do believe that Halloween Ends will more than likely be the ending of the Laurie Strode story as we know it, connected to the original film, but we'll see what happens. I don't think, I mean, Carpenter is basically saying that, well, if it continues to make money, you bet we're going to continue to do them. Well, yeah, it's a business. That makes sense. You'd be stupid not to.
If you're making money, make it while you can.
There you go. Let's see here.
Which, the J Hookmaster, which VHS tape do you guys cherish most in your collection? Well, for me, I shared that earlier. That was this bad boy right here, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because it was the first, numero uno, the very first one that I ever bought. I have it in a protective casing now, and probably going to be buried with this thing.
That'd be amazing. I don't know what my most cherished one is. I'm not sure. I would have to go through all my boxes and find it. I don't really know off the top of my head. I showed some of my favorites today, but I'm not sure which one I hold close to my heart. I'm not really sure. That's a good question though. Super chat comes in from Sweet Tea, just donating to the channel. Thank you, Sweet Tea. Much appreciated. You rock. Yeah. Mike McCorder. Am I saying that right? I think so.
It looks like McCurder. Sorry, Mike, if we butchered your last name.
They used the original mask for the Halloween poster for 4, and they gave us crap looking, I think you mean, Michael, that ruined it beyond anything. Yeah, and they also did that on the cover of Halloween 5 as well. They used the same mask as Halloween 4. So yeah, that's true. It's a common thing. I don't know, man. False advertising. Yeah. Super chat from Nick says, Dave, a new 28 Days sequel is coming from Danny Boyle. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I have to check that out.
Yeah. Michael Anderson, favorite wrestler of all time. I'll get Tony Savage fan in Austin. Actually, my all-time favorite wrestler is Austin. Is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
Yeah. What? Macho was my favorite wrestler growing up as a kid during the golden age of wrestling. I kind of fizzled out during the new generation era, which was like the early 90s, just before the Attitude Era kicked in.
Right.
I kept tabs on it. I knew what was going on. I know that was during the days of Hitman, and Shawn Michaels was really beginning to come into his own, but it didn't keep my interest, but I knew what was going on. And then when Austin came in, and then The Rock, and you saw this shift happening with the Attitude Era and everything that Steve Austin brought to that character, and all of them. I mean, you can't sell short what The Rock did, what Mankind did, what The Undertaker did, and even what Michaels did, because he was part of that core 8, and what these guys were doing to really do something that was really special for us fans of wrestlers, because it really was the last time that I was very interested in wrestling. The one little, as far as this era with Macho Man and Hulk, the only little nudge that I give it, even though Austin is my favorite and I love the Attitude Era, but what I loved most about the golden age, the 80s, you had great fucking tag teams in the 80s. Not that you didn't have great tag teams in the Attitude Era with the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys and whatnot, but I mean, you think about the names in the 80s, you had the Hart Foundation, you had the Rockers, you had Strike Force, you had Demolition, Legion of Doom,
the Bushwhackers,
British Bulldogs. I know Dino Bravo was part of a Canadian combination as well too. Somebody in the chat room helped me out. But then you had the whole
Hart Foundation was too, I think.
Hart Foundation, yeah, Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Bret the Hitman. I don't know if Jim was Jim Canadian? I mean, Bret's Canadian.
Bret's Canadian for sure.
Yeah.
But I know Dino Bravo had he had a tag team partner, but they're Quebec. I think Quebec. I almost said Nordiques, but that's the hockey team. They're Quebec something. I can't remember what it was.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but the 80s, you had that. You had great tag teams. You had great individual characters from Hogan. And even though Hogan was a fucking prima donna, and now when you watch back a lot of those things, it became too predictable that he was main eventing and he was winning the title. That's why I feel Macho Man really got the short end of the stick, because really of all of them, he was the best. He was the best on the microphone at that time in the 80s. He was bringing something totally different that even Hogan couldn't do on the fucking mic. Okay, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, fucking 24-inch pythons. Of course, mine it's like 24 negative. You know, I mean, but Mach, man, like you did your impersonation earlier, he was really, you know, he could get into it, even though I'm sure he did like about an 8.5 before he went live, you know, but, you know, he could deliver it.
Yeah.
But then you had other great individual, Jake the Snake Roberts, you had Andre, you had fucking Junkyard Dog, you had Big John Studd, Ultimate Warrior, you had Ricky
Bruce the Barber Beefcake.
Bruce Barber Beefcake, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which arguably him and Macho Man's matchup in WrestleMania 3 is one of the greatest matches of all fucking time.
Oh yeah,
it was just, like I said, I love the Attitude Era. Austin's my favorite. Maybe it's because I was a child during the 80s and grew up with this. Like to me, you know, it was as real as you can get until you realize when you get older, like, oh, well, okay, it's a lie, but it's entertainment and it's fun. But it was a special time. I think that's the reason why I just gave it that little edge.
There's very little I disagree with what you said. So I just, you know, what he said, because Austin was my favorite in the Attitude Era as well. So
yeah.
And I liked Goldberg from WCW.
Goldberg was good too, yeah. Oh my God, the Monday Night Wars. Jeez.
Oh yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
Dude, that was a fun time. Brief but very fun time.
Yep. Super chat from Nathan Oswald says, "We need 4K release of Star Wars Holiday Special." Yeah, that'd be amazing. Can you imagine?
Oh my God, I don't even know how they could do that. Well, I mean, they could convert it to 4K, so it wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be true 4K, but yeah, that would be.
That thing's not seeing the light of day again. I don't.
Boy, I tell you what, though, I don't know what's better to watch when you smoked a bowl, that or Pink Floyd's The Wall, because they're both very fucking trippy.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Okay, we'll take a couple more here.
Sure.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see one we haven't got yet. Somebody we haven't got.
Honky Tonk Man, he was another great guy from the 80s wrestling era.
Yeah, Jake the Snake Roberts.
You remember they used to, like, this is like, you know, like what everybody gets today and versus what we had growing up. We used to have this thing called Saturday Night Main Event, and it would only come on like once every few months. We didn't get it weekly. And I remember it being so fucking special. Like when you knew it was coming on, man, you knew like you're begging your parents, oh, I got to stay up late. I got to watch this. I got to know what happens. And shit. And there were some really great classic moments.
You can watch those on YouTube now.
Yeah, which is great because I remember those like so vividly, and being like this, like, you know, 8 to 9 year old kid and staying up late watching Saturday Night Main Event and watching, you know, fucking, you know, Hogan come down and save Macho Man from fucking getting his ass whooped by the Hart Foundation and Honky Tonk. And that's when the Mega Powers formed and shit. Like, good times, man. I fucking miss the 80s.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I'll tell you something, Mean Gene.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. But it was always like, he was like this. You know, when Mean Gene was talking, he was always like, well, I'm standing here with the, you know, Hulk Hogan and blah, 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 blah. And Hogan's sitting there going, like he's getting himself, you know, worked up. And he's like, so what do you think? And he's like, well, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. It's like, holy shit, the guy is just fucking going bonkers. He's like,
he started doing that because of what Savage was doing in his promos. Because if you look at Hogan's promos pre-Savage, Hogan's promos were pretty much, you know, I'm the man, I'm the shit. When Savage comes in and amps up cutting promos, Hogan's like, well, fuck, I better take a cue and start amping myself up.
And Jesse Ventura was great, too.
Oh, my God, yeah. You know, some of my favorite...
Let me tell you something, Gorilla!
Yeah, him and Gorilla were great together. But Vince, you can't undermine Vince's mic skills. Vince was good.
Vince was good.
Really good. Oh, and getting the high octave. Look at him up there! Yeah. Oh, my God.
My favorite Jesse Ventura line is from...
And even Heenan. you can't sell out Heenan either.
No, that's
Heenan was
true.
great, too.
He was good. My favorite Jesse Ventura line is from Predator. You know, you're bleeding. I ain't got time to bleed. I love that fucking line. I want to cut myself in public just so somebody can be like, hey, you're bleeding. And I can just say, ain't got time to bleed.
Yep.
Can you imagine I randomly cut myself all over the place just to get people to say, hey, you're bleeding. And I can be like, I ain't got time to bleed. Just so I can say that line.
Cheesy. That's as cheesy as Chris Evans saying in Age of Ultron, if you die, walk it off. Like,
but I love it. I love it. All right, let's see here.
Let's get back to the question. Sorry, guys. We'll give you guys a little extra time. I know we went off there.
Yeah, we'll go to 9:30. We'll go 9:30. Another 12 minutes. Let's see. Oliver Mercer says, do you think Smoke is Palpatine all along in disguise? I think you mean Snoke, right? Snoke. Do I think Snoke is Palpatine all along in disguise?
I hope not.
I
really hope not, but
I think there's going to be a connection between Snoke and Palpatine. Like, I don't think it's going to be completely separate and Snoke was just a random thing. I think there is going to be some sort of connection, but what that connection is, I don't know. I'm not sure whether he is Palpatine and he is a different manifestation, whether he was somebody else that Palpatine was, ruling over, whether I don't know really, but I think I'd be surprised if JJ just let this potentially great villain he created just literally die the way he did without some sort of context, unless the other stuff in the movie is so compelling. The stuff going on with Rey and the bigger picture and is just so compelling that he doesn't need Snoke to be related in some sort of way, maybe. But I think there's a good chance in some way they're connected somehow.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Jerp Pin, any ideas for a new horror icon for the 2020s? Yeah, I'm in the process of developing 2 of those, actually. No, I kid. I don't know if they're going to be icons, but I'm in the process of developing my original characters.
Vern.
Well, no. I've kind of put Vern on the shelf because I've gained a lot of momentum with this brother-sister combination, Punky and Larry. Larry wears his evil-looking clown mask, and he's got a stick.
I've seen the photos, right.
It's a brother-sister combination. My buddy Devin is in the process of writing the script, and what we're going to do is start creating shorts, and probably through some help with Dave, and I'll send him some up the shorts and working with other people as well too to kind of massage it. My vision ideally would be something very similar to like Last House on the Left and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, set in the genre of slasher, going back to that old school way of slasher films, making it very disturbing and very creepy of what we got back in the day. Now, will my characters be iconic? Probably not. But if it can be enjoyable, that people go, hey man, you made a good flick. We really appreciate it. That's really at the end of the day that I'm going for. It's very hard to create something to the level of like, Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Ghostface and Chucky. I mean, I think everyone's intentions when they create a movie, like, Terrifier, Art the Clown, he could possibly, depending on, how well this sequel does, he could be that next beginning wave of new icons. Because I did enjoy it. It's definitely a great flick, and Art the Clown's a great character. So we'll see. But I don't think we're ever going to see what we saw back in the late 70s and throughout the 80s. It's very hard to repeat that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just think the focus should be not so much worrying about creating iconic characters, but just making good horror movies. That's it. Leave it out, for the icon part. That's up for the audience to decide, as long as you're making good shit.
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know. I think horror is moving away from the. I don't think horror is going to continue to evolve. As I've often said, the subgenre of horror, the slasher genre,
It's dying. It is.
It's no, it is because it was always at best a B movie anyway. I mean, look, Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th are B horror movies.
Yep.
We don't think of them as B horror movies because when they came out, that was horror. That was where horror was. Horror movies were always really, unless you were a little more, sophisticated, like a Hitchcock film or something like that. But Last House on the, or The Exorcist, that was a little more sort of polished. But when you look at the horror movies like Last House on the Left, like The Hills Have Eyes, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, like Black Christmas, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the original Halloween, like the original Friday the 13th, like Terror Train, like The Burning, like I can go on and on and on and on and on. They were always B horror movies. Now, when I say B doesn't mean bad. Okay, no. B is a grade that's given to distinguish itself from the big budget blockbusters. So it's usually a low budget horror movie. So they're low budget films. And
some of my favorite movies that I enjoy are B films.
100%. So the slasher genre, now because Friday and Elm Street and Halloween took off into the pop culture, they were given larger budgets, and that's why their later films look a bit more polished. Same with Chucky and things like that. But at the roots of their core, the slasher genre at best has always been a B horror movie, which is why it's never evolved really, which is why it's sort of, Scream sort of reinvented it, but that's because it was almost a spoof. Scream was a satirical look at the horror genre. It was making fun of itself and the horror tropes and things that you see in horror movies, while at the same time still telling a story, right? But it wasn't like Spaceballs spoof, but it was, for all intents and purposes, spoofy, right? It was, it's got that kind of, that element to it. And that launched, of course, into urban legend and things like that. But at its core, it was always B movies, so I don't think we're ever going to see the slasher genre. That doesn't mean a slasher movie won't be made in the years, to come that is really good and that a lot of people really like. But I don't know if it's ever going to take off. Like it did in the 80s.
Right. I don't think we're going to see it in the pop culture reference of when you say names like Freddy Krueger and Ghostface and Jason and Michael and Chucky, where you actually see, you can go into any store and buy, whether it's a doll or, any type of merchandise. I'm not saying you're not going to see that with Art the Clown. I'm sure certain stores may, like a Hot Topic or a Spencer's, may carry it. But you're going to see your hardcore ones there. You're going to see the Jasons, the Freddys, the Michael, Leatherface, and Ghostface and whatnot. I'm not saying nothing is impossible, but I just don't see it. We're going to see characters to that type of level where it's not just the movies, but they're also the merchandise as well too.
Well, yeah, because think about Scream. Scream is arguably, Ghostface is in the pop culture. It hit the levels like a Freddy and Jason, but look at the kind of movie Scream was. Right. It almost needed to be that kind of movie at that time in order for it to have that kind of effect. If Scream had just been a regular slasher, it may not have, we might not be talking about Ghostface right now. We may be going, oh yeah, that Ghostface, like we do with, oh yeah, Urban Legend. Oh yeah, The Faculty, which isn't a slasher per se, but you know what I mean? Oh yeah, I Know What You Did Last Summer. even The Fisherman, I Know What You Did Last Summer. The first one was all right. The second one was dog shit, but The Fisherman never reached levels like Ghostface or,
in fact, you can even argue that Babyface from Happy Death Day is more popular than The Fisherman.
You can make, but look what Babyface is. Right. It's a different satirical sort of, spin on the slasher genre. And that's because the slasher genre, for the most part, has been exhausted. And it's always been a B movie at its core anyway. So where horror is really evolving and where it's really tapping into the mainstream is the psychological horror, because you can scare everybody that way. You can't scare everybody with slasher films, but you can scare everybody if you know how to tap into the different layers of their psyche with that kind of a genre.
That's exactly why I said, for my, movie here that currently is called Good Hope, because that's the town, Good Hope, Georgia. That's the town we were setting this in. Now, that's not going to be the final title, But my North Star and what I'm using as my guide is Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Last House on the Left, because when you watch those films, they're disturbing. They get under your skin, especially Last House. I rewatched that again going, this is a fucking disturbing film. But we need shit like that. It's not just, okay, we've seen that shit. Right. I want to get under people's skins. I want people to go, this is really fucked up, man. Like,
yes.
You know what
exactly.
I mean? But not because they're doing it because of blood and guts, but because of like what you're seeing on screen. And Last House totally fucking executes that. We need to do a stream one night on that flick. A Craven night.
Yes, I'd be down for that. Yeah, but a couple of his movies that not a lot of people tend to go to, like Last House on the Left and The Hills of Eyes or something like that.
Exactly.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be fun. Want to do 2 more?
Yeah, we'll do 2 more. Let's do 2 more. I just want to go back, make sure I didn't miss a super chat here. I don't think I did. No, I did not. Okay, so 2 more questions. 2 more questions. Let's see if I can get somebody that I haven't got yet tonight.
That's what I'm looking for right now, to see anyone that. Well, I can answer this really quick. Michael Myers' favorite Jurassic Park scene when the T-Rex eats that dude off the toilet.
I think my favorite scene is when we first introduced to the T-Rex and the glass is shaking and shit. I just love that. Fucking, it still holds up today. Like he still looks fucking amazing.
Yep.
Let's see here. Bay Ken says, well, what do you guys think about Jordan Peele? I really enjoyed Get Out. I have to admit, I have still not seen Us, but I am planning on seeing it very soon. So I cannot speak to Us, but I did like Get Out. So we'll see. I'm still I think Jordan Peele I think he's talented. I think he certainly there's potential there, but it is far too early to be calling Jordan Peele one of the greats, or the next Kubrick, or the next Carpenter, or the next. Will Jordan Peele be making films 10 years from now? We will see. But I enjoyed his directing sensibilities.
He's great, a great director, but he's very green. He's only got 2 films.
He's very
Is the potential there for him to be, one of the best? Fuck yeah, I'd be the first one to admit it. But it's too soon to be, to be saying that.
Well, and something that Jordan Peele and I don't want to I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but both movies, well, not necessarily Us, I don't think, although you can speak to it more than I could.
But I liked it. It was solid.
But don't try to give anything away. But what I'm saying is that Jordan Peele, I know that Get Out, race was a very big sort of, overtone to that film. I don't know if Us had that as well. All I'm saying is that if it did, then it's important to see him doing other things that have nothing to do with that. Although I will say, even though I haven't seen Us yet, it was great to see a black family just in a horror movie without any, at least from the trailers that I could see, race was an issue. It's just it could have been any family.
Yeah, no,
it just happened to be a black family.
American family.
Then that is great. That's because that's how you lift everybody up, right? That's how you lift everybody. You don't make movies. I mean, you can. I'm not saying you stop making films that don't have a certain subcontext to them or subtext to them, but you want to see other races and ethnicities just doing things that we do, right? You don't want to draw attention to their race. You want to it could have been any family, but it's just a black family, and that's how you lift everybody up. So I want to see more of that just in the culture in terms of filmmaking, because that's how you get more people nominated and and things like that. But once you start to cast because they're black, then it gets a bit tricky. So I haven't seen Us, but that's good to know that doesn't appear to be a subtext to that.
We tend to have a similar taste. I think you're going to enjoy Us when you finally watch it.
Cool.
You'll like it.
Cool.
Edward Moody. Edward Moody. I like that.
Yeah, he asks. Edward Moody. I got into horror movies at a young age. At what age do you think it's appropriate for people to start watching horror movies? Well, It depends. I mean, it all depends on the child. It depends on the parent.
That's the key thing. It depends on Dave and I I was 6 years old when I watched Nightmare on Elm Street.
About
but you
that too, yeah.
Stand, it was the 80s, different time.
Yep.
I never took the shit seriously. I had fun with it. I just thought it was, it was like, for me, like I said, I've said this before many times. I literally at one point in my life went from being the 6-year-old kid watching Saturday morning cartoons, Transformers, He-Man, all that shit, to the 6-year-old kid who's watching Freddy, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Jason, eventually, Michael, as the late 80s approached and whatnot. And just, in my mind, it was the child in me that just never took it seriously. I never thought it was real. I never had any intentions to go and do the stuff that I saw on TV in real world. I knew it was make believe and pretend. Me and my brother would sit there and we would reenact scenes. I remember very vividly when my mom had to borrow my grandfather's truck because her car had broken down. So we had the truck in the driveway. We fucking recreate the Halloween 4 truck scene. I'd be up on top of her trying to grab him out like he's Earl and shit, you know what I mean? And then I'd fall down and he'd pretend to hit me. And, we always knew it wasn't real. So a lot of times people tend to put this negative attachment to horror films and think that that's the reason why these people go out and commit harm and do crime and, the shootings and stuff like that. And I really don't think horror movies play next to zero factor in it, because you can remove all horror films forever. You can make it illegal to have horror movies. At the end of the day, people are going to do evil things. It goes back to the days of Cain and Abel. Okay. I mean, evil is evil. It is out there. You can't stop it. So I think like Dave said, it all comes down to the individual and I think if my parents saw something else, I think they would have stepped in and say, okay, dude, you got to stop watching it. But because I always approached it from a juvenile-like mindset and always just had fun with it, and have been able now to carry it over as an adult and create these photographs for you guys on Instagram and just have fun doing that shit and never taking it seriously, I think that's the key factor. If someone is trying to get serious with it and that becomes a part of their makeup of who they are in their real life, that's the red flags that you got to be careful for. But I've never really, all the horror fans that I have met at conventions and my friendship with you, Dave, and I've never met anyone that looks like they're going to be a next serial killer. Everyone just is very cool, very chill. I love chatting with you guys on Instagram and leaving comments and quoting lines from movies. I never get that vibe that, this person is disturbed and they're messed up because they like horror movies, not the stereotypical shit that we get from the people who are outside looking in at us, the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the parent. It depends on the child, the age. I mean, the same age as Tony. Was probably about 1985 when I started watching horror movies when I was 6, and or maybe even 84. When I was 5. It could have been then too, but certainly I always knew that I was watching a movie. I knew it was make believe. I wasn't about to go out and cut somebody's head off, and I really think that's overstated. I don't know what the stats are, but I think if you knew the stats of people that were fucked up, that committed awful crimes, the one thing that you hardly ever hear them say is, well, I used to watch horror movies, and they
had this massive horror movie collection. All these killers, you never hear any of that shit.
No, you don't. It's now, do I think it's appropriate for young children to be watching and to be shown images like that because of their development in terms of being able to go to sleep and sleep well and not have nightmares or things like? Sure. I mean, there's certain ages you don't want to show certain kids.
I think
certain
you
things,
and I are a rare thing where it comes to where you and I could handle that at such a young age and not really be affected by it. Because I had no problem sleeping.
No, I didn't either. But there's a lot of kids or a lot of guys that are our age that had the same thing, that didn't watched horror movies young. But I think today, because of social media and because of cyberbullying and because
don't broadcast that you're doing that.
It's a different world. I think it's circumstantial. It depends on the child. It depends on the parent and all that. I mean, I'm not a child psychologist and I don't pretend to be one, so obviously I couldn't tell you what the makeup is. But I think that's an appropriate answer. Is that I think it is situational and person specific. I don't think you should
if you and Miss Wright here that you've been with that you're going to marry one day and have kids, a whole flock of little McRaes. If you had one, would you if your 5-year-old son said, "Hey, Dad, I want to watch Nightmare with you"?
Well, I would love that, but it depends on the child. I mean, do I think that this is a kid that gets it? You know, have I done a good job as a parent?
Key. Right.
It's key. It's key. If my kid doesn't get it, or my kid, suffers from some sort of, maybe he's, autistic, maybe there's certain, he has a learning, disability. Who knows? It's all circumstantial. It's not black and white. It's not like, 7 is the age. Well, no, but it depends on the kid. It depends on the circumstance, right? It depends on the movie. It depends on the horror movie. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. 2 more questions. 2 more. Let's see here. I will pick...
pick one and I'll pick one.
All right. I will go with... well, this is an easy one. I'll go with this. David Lee Barron says, what is the best Indiana Jones movie? The best Indiana Jones movie? Notice David didn't say what's your favorite. The best, I think, is Raiders of the Lost Ark. The first one.
That's a Dave question. I don't know Indy like Dave does, so I can't answer that one. Honestly, to me, I like them all, but I like
them all too. But yeah,
I'm not like Indy. To me, it's fun. Harrison Ford adventure.
I think Raiders of the Lost Ark is arguably one of the greatest adventure movies ever made. I mean, the very first one, the one where he goes to find, the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, that's when and the practical effects and the truck chase and how he's under the truck holding on and he goes under the truck. And it's class. I mean, that's one of the greatest adventure movies ever made, let alone the best Indiana Jones movie. But my favorite Indiana Jones is Temple of Doom. Anyway. All right. Last question. Tony's going to take it. Last question.
Well, here, Lee Bowers actually asked you, this isn't the one, but he says he wanted to know your thoughts on Anthony Michael Hall joining the cast for Halloween Kills. Dave did discuss that early on, but do you want to briefly give a quick...
No, because I'm going to do a video on it. So hopefully either later tonight or tomorrow at some point, I'll pop up my thoughts on it. So
ACDC 113089. If you guys could meet one person, who would it be?
Living?
I would assume living. It would have to be living because...
Yeah, that's true.
Really kind of hard to meet a dead person. I mean, you could meet him, but the conversation is going to be very one-sided.
It would be either Steven Spielberg or Harrison Ford.
For me, one person. Man, that's hard because there's a lot of people that I want to meet. That's a very hard question. One person. Donald Trump. No. No. God, no. I just wanted to lighten it up for a second here. Well, if I did meet him, I'd be like, what are you, nuts? Why did you want to get into politics?
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
I don't even know why anyone ever would want to get into politics.
Michelle, I think, has given you the answer.
I know. That was going to be my answer was going to be Danielle Harris, but that's like I feel like I can come up with something better than stating the obvious. Like I'm trying to think of somebody who was an influence to my life and creative choices and decisions that I've made career-wise. And Wes Craven unfortunately passed away because he definitely would have been someone. But I think if I get him high enough, I could have a very chill, cool conversation with John Carpenter. And get him mellowed out. If I can get him mellow, if I can, because I know when you can get Carpenter mellow, he can be a very cool dude to talk to. If he's not mellow, he could be a real fucker to talk to. Okay. I've seen some of those videos where he could be very just like a very one line. I'm not going to I don't want to be here and talk.
Oh yeah.
But I think if you can get him in a right state of mind frame, very chilled, very relaxed, and just fucking shoot the shit and just talking about shit, hanging out for a few hours. Carpenter would be very fun to talk to. But I even got to say, someone like Michael Jordan, to meet Michael Jordan would be a really cool thing as well, too. Yep. He was a huge influence as a child, just working hard, being dedicated to whatever it is that you're passionate about, whether it's sports or not sports related. We all grew up wanting to be like Mike, of some sorts, whatever we were going after. He would be a cool person to meet. But actually, no, in seriousness, for good times only, if I had to meet a political person, it would have to be Bill Clinton, because those nights at the strip clubs would be a blast.
Oh, yeah, baby. All right.
Billy
Tony,
Billy
Michael,
would be taking care of us that night, for sure.
Tony, Michael, and I are going to go get something good. All right, folks, that's gonna do it. I'm Bill Clinton. That's Tony Michael. We will be back next week on episode 37 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You guys are amazing. Thank you to each and every one of you who helped support the channel via super chats. We think you're awesome. And everybody else who, of course, tuned in, you are supporting us by being here. We couldn't do this if you weren't here, because we'd be just talking to ourselves. Although I tend to be able to do that a lot. But anyway, that's totally besides the point. Hey, if you want to follow Tony Michael on Instagram and you're not doing it already, his
Link
Instagram is below, also right below his picture, as you can see right there. There we go. Yeah, right there. At Tony Michael. I now have Instagram just below my window there, at Dave McRae 79.
Over the last week, you got to get active again on there.
A couple of weeks, I have. Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to Insta now. I got to Insta, as the kids say. Do you Insta? I mean, they're abbreviating an already abbreviated word. Instagram. Insta is an abbreviation of instant, and now they're abbreviating the abbreviation. Do you Insta? Anyway, yeah, I got to get on there. I mean, I am on there. I just got to continue to do it. All my links are down below as well. So we'll be back next week. You guys are amazing. And I should have a Tommy Doyle video up either later tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. I've been doing a lot of shit today. I did my Star Wars video. I did the show. I'll probably do it tomorrow. I need a bit of a break. So
wait. Give me one more Macho Man before we sign off.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to walk in there and Hogan, I know Elizabeth. Oh, the cream rises to the top. Yeah, the cream. I love that one where he's got the creamers. He's doing that interview.
I know. Yeah.
Fucking amazing. And he's sitting there and he's got the shades on and he's like, the cream rises to the top. Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
He's
like, what the fuck? Oh, it's fucking hilarious. Fucking amazing.
Cocaine in the 80s, man.
And then the Ultimate Warriors, Hogan! They were all on crack. All of them. It was like, what the fuck, man?
All right, guys, we're out of here.
What do you think, Hulkster? Well, listen here, Mean Gene! It's like, holy shit.
Yep.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you guys soon.